Welcome to the Fantasy Audiobook. The Journey in Marvel Magician. Chapter 21. On the first day after the portal was able to be used proficiently, Mordu took Li Feng, who was lying on the bed, carrying Li Feng by the neck like a chicken, and walked straight to the practice room dedicated to practicing the mirror space. Mordu held his hands behind his back and turned away Li Feng, who had innocent small eyes. He whispered, "This is the first time I have seen such a lazy magician. Who would be lazy after a mortal knows that he can practice magic? How about you? I can bear to eat more than pigs. After all, it takes a lot of energy to cast spells. Food can restore your energy. But when the sun goes up, you sleep and you don't get up until the sun rises. If you want to waste your ability, just say it. If it weren't for Master Ancient One's instructions, I wouldn't bother to pay attention to you, and I would squeeze out my time to practice magic to teach you. Is it true that I am idle?" Mordu was more and more angry, and his tone was obviously displeased, and said, "The end of the portal training does not mean that your magical practice is over. Now, use your mirror space, let me see Ancient One's mouth, some abilities, or how many abilities are there?" Li Feng said that he was very innocent. Last night, the spirit body was a little fascinated by reading alchemy books in Merlin's magic ring. He forgot the time and failed to return the spirit body to the physical body to rest in time. This led to oversleeping in the morning, but this shouldn't be blamed on him, after all. It is normal for most people to see a book that they are interested in staying up late for night reading. They are saying that he didn't intend to stay up late on purpose, but just forgot the time. Li Feng, who stood upright in disbelief, curled his lips. He knew that no matter how he refuted, Mordu wouldn't care about it. Mordor only cared about when he could play with the mirror space. As long as I play the mirror space as fancy as the portal, Mordor won't care when I sleep. In Li Feng's heart, he silently thought about how Mordu would not take care of himself in the future, and how he should waver, while posing to release the mirror space. Slow casting and a lot of waste of mana will not be mentioned, but the space in your mirror space file size. Mordu shook his head while muttering where Li Feng failed to cast the spell, and said, "You are a mirrored space. How do I think it is a glass slag space? I won't talk about the space that breaks when I touch it. Is the space there too big? Is it a bit enough for ants to jog one lap in a minute?" Feng Li took a look at his mirror space and retorted with his inner lips, "How can you say that there are 3 square meters? Can your ants circle around 3 square meters in 1 minute? I'm afraid you are not raising ants. It's Hank Pym's old Ant-Man." Shrugging his shoulders, Li Feng said innocently, "You are the boss, and I do what you say I should practice." Mordu glanced at Li Feng, stretched out his hand, and a magic whip appeared in his hand and said, "Compared to practicing the mirror space, you must first grasp the precise output of mana. The magic whip is the best object to practice. To convert mana into growth whip, it is also necessary to stabilize mana output." Wielding the magic whip to make a sound, Mordu continued, "The whip will disappear when the mana is unstable, and the mana that maintains the whip will lengthen or shorten the length." After speaking, Mordor seemed to have anticipated Li Feng's plight, took out a book explaining the magic whip from his arms and handed it to Li Feng, walked to the tea table to the side to make tea for himself, and put a baseball in his hand. Said, "Now I watch you learn the magic whip, and when you learn to use the magic whip, stand 3 meters away and shoot the baseball in my hand." We are talking about the mirror space. Li Feng looked at the books in his hand, and looked at the baseball in Mordor's hands. For some reason, he always felt that Mordor had a special obsession with baseball. I guess he was beaten with a baseball before he became a magician. After Li Feng put his hands together in his heart and said, "Amen," silently, he sat cross-legged on the ground and looked through the books in his hands. When he encountered words in the book that Li Feng did not understand, he turned his head and raised his doubts to Mordu. Although the quality of Mordor's teaching is worse than that of Ancient One, it is still above the level. At least under Mordor's teaching, Li Feng spent a day understanding the process of casting the magic whip. As for the release of the whip, then it's another story of hard practice. Success is equal to 99% of sweat, plus the more important ability of 1%. Mordor had to admire Li Feng's ability in space spells, just like constantly asking for advice on space spells and adding his own good ability. Li Feng finally released the mirror space freely after playing with the magic whip for half a month. Mordor believed that it took him nearly half a year to successfully release the mirror space. After all, not everyone has the same ability as Doctor Strange, and can understand spells by reading and studying. Li Feng is currently unable to treat the mirrored space as a muddy toy like the Ancient One did. He will turn the space to turn the blue sky above to his feet, and turn the building like a kaleidoscope to make people look dazzling, but he now opened the mirror space at least in seconds so that you can hide yourself at any time. A few days later, Li Feng's mirror space. Mordu's eyes twitched and watched Li Feng stretched out his hand to copy a mirror in the room, and filled the entire space, let himself look down, look up, and see his dark face from side to side, especially when Li Feng slowed down the stacks of mirrors. After spinning around him, Mordu felt that he was almost thrown up by his figure in the mirror. Fighting is indeed a trouble in this kind of mirrored space where you close your eyes and you seem to see your dark face dangling in front of you. And you still don't know which mirror Li Feng hides behind peeping at you, dizzy and vomiting. Mordu stretched out his hand to stop Li Feng, opened a portal, and said, "Don't let the mirror turn in front of me. I feel that I am about to fall in love with my handsome face. You have completed the casting of the mirror space, and the rest I have nothing to teach you." As soon as he stepped out of the portal, Mordu turned his head and said to Li Feng, who was still hiding behind the mirror, "In terms of your current control over mana, you can go to Hamir Magician to learn how to forge a magic weapon." After finishing speaking, Mordor waved his hand at his portal to close the portal. Li Feng scratched his head and walked out from behind the mirror, thinking about Mordu's change of attitude towards him in the past few days. Don't look at Mordu's usual serious face when he teaches spells, but what the other party teaches himself is nothing but dry goods. Otherwise, my spell practice will progress so quickly. Just rely on my ability. Just kidding, there is no competent teacher to teach, and good abilities are useless. This is a magic tutorial that can't be found on the internet. Does it mean that under the influence of Ancient One, does Mordo treat himself from love to love house and woo-how, or does Mordo feel that he is a friend worthy of dating? Really want to be friends with me? Touching his chin, Li Feng opened the portal and walked out of the mirrored space. He didn't believe that Ancient One, who was proficient in time spells, would not know about Mordo. In the incident of Caecilius betraying Comatage, he learned that Ancient One was also using dark energy, and then he was sentenced to escape. And to kill the magician outside. But now Ancient One lets Mordo take pains to teach himself. I want to have the natural mana bias towards the dark. I took this love of Mordu, so that this buddy knows that the dark energy is just energy, good people and bad people have nothing to do with energy, waiting to know that the Ancient One is also stimulated by the dark energy. Will it be less, or simply let me, the dark camp magician who has a good relationship, enlighten and comfort Mordu's fragile little heart? The problem is that I have no love for Mordor, and who can tell the future? Even if it is Ancient One who can see the future, it's not clear. Maybe Mordu knew that I wanted to kill me after using the dark mana. Li Feng, who went to Hamir's magician meditation room, shrugged to himself until he knocked on Hamir's door. Follow him, anyway, I'm not Mordor's opponent now. Even my own mana attributes need to be correct. Mordor keeps it secret, and he dared not say to Mordor that energy is not good or bad. Only users can tell good and bad nonsense. Hamir was meditating in the meditation room. He heard a knock on the door. Although he felt unhappy because of being interrupted in meditation, he still couldn't see the joy and anger and got up and opened the door. Li Feng looked at Hamir, who was expressionless, scratched his eyebrows and whispered, Mordor said I can learn how to forge magical artifacts from you. Ma Dan, looking at your authentic facial paralyzed face, I always feel like you found out that I stole your materials. Hamir looked at Li Feng seriously, and seemed to be able to judge Li Feng's current control over mana at a glance. After a while, Hamir nodded and let Li Feng walk into the meditation room sideways, saying, I know you were forged a kind of magic playing card, show it to me, so that I have a preliminary understanding of your craft. Yes, it seems I really found out that I secretly took a few more materials. Scratching his head, Li Feng handed a magic playing card to Hamir. When Hamir took the card, he glanced at Li Feng. Nunu's mouth expressed his disdain, and he muttered in his heart, if it hadn't been for Ancient One to know and agree to take it. Magic material, I really want to slap you to death. Obviously you can make 5 playing cards for you to make one. Your ability to waste materials is also nothing to say. He threw aside the cards he forged by Li Feng's rough method. Hamir walked to his workbench and arranged the workbench and said, Master Ancient One told me you want to forge a vestment and a magic sword by yourself. Hearing what the other party said, he only wanted to teach himself to forge vestments and magic knives, and then stopped teaching himself alchemy methods. Li Feng rubbed his hands and looked a little embarrassed. He looked at someone who could skillfully operate the workbench with one hand. Hamir said, If I can, I want to learn. Want to learn, hee. Waiting for you to become Kamataja's magician, I will teach you wholeheartedly, little rookie. Hamir didn't hear what Li Feng was talking about, so he picked up a cretites and motioned to Li Feng to do it himself. He was only responsible for teaching on the side. As for having Hamir demonstrate how to forge the vestments, he said it was impossible. Didn't he see that he only has one hand? Allowing disabled people to work for free is not something a person with able-bodied limbs should do. What can Li Feng do about this? Fortunately, Li Feng's sewing skills are not bad. It took a few days to finally change a green tights to a little cleaning function, black trousers and nothing. Sleeve shirt. Looking at his own results, Li Feng's mouth curled up and muttered, I am not going to be a naked man anymore. I finally didn't lose my face to Otherworld. The magic clothes that I wore when crossing were solved, and the rest was naturally to have a magic long knife for self-protection. The magic transformation of the long sword is much more difficult than the magic transformation of the tights. The clothes can be used for a certain degree of defense depending on their own materials. All Li Feng has to do is to engrave the spell on the clothes, nothing more. The long knife is different. Although the material is suitable for magic reform, Li Feng's craftsmanship. In Hamir's eyes, Li Feng is a waste of a good knife and good materials. Let's see how Li Feng changed the long knife. First, he described the fire-calling technique that allowed the high-speed movement of the blade's molecules to increase the sharpness of the blade. Then, all that is left is to let the long knife ignite a layer of flames and increase the flame attack. Is that gone? In the end, Li Feng didn't know whether it was painful or distressed in Hamir's face that Li Feng wasted a lot of materials, picked up his long knife and walked out of the meditation room. On the way back to the room, Mordu in magical equipment stopped Li Feng, who was holding a long knife smirking all the way, and glanced at the magic long knife in Li Feng's arms and the black sleeveless shirt that Li Feng was wearing in the magician cloak, with something on his face. I'm sorry, and said, Ancient One magician asked you to take the magic book to her living room. Master is back, Li Feng asked in a daze. As for the embarrassment on Mordu's face, he hadn't noticed at all. Who made his face so dark that he couldn't see his expression? Looking at Mordu's outfit that is ready to fight, Li Feng took out the matchbox file-size magic book from his pocket, and said, Do you know who invaded this world this time? How do I feel that Ancient One is back, but you going to the battlefield? Mordu obviously knew the truth, hesitation, considering Ancient One's attitude towards Li Feng, plus the fact that the matter was basically over, and he had something to ask for Li Feng's help, and said, The opponent that Ancient One encountered this time came from Hell. Although the leader of the Hell leader was killed by the Ancient One Master, some Ronaldo devil who was good at hiding took the opportunity to enter the world. This kind of thing does not require much combat power but takes time to find the other side's figure. It is definitely ours. It's a magician thing, otherwise, why would such a powerful Ancient One Master train us? To be honest, I really don't know how strong you are. I just want to ask, can you look calm when facing machine gun shooting? Although I can only magically change the long sword, I will definitely change the car like Barstow in the future. In the near future, maybe I can wave my hand to see the magic change of a space battleship. The battleship is too far away. I still have a modified Vulcan cannon, and I will ask you if you are afraid. Mordu sent Li Feng to the Ancient One living room. Li Feng finally saw that there was a hint of the other party's speech, and seemed to want to say something to himself, but Mordu didn't say anything in the end, just waved goodbye to Li Feng to indicate that he was busy. Go chasing the devil. Li Feng scratched his head, shrugged and gently pushed the door of the sitting room. In the living room, I don't know if I am closing my eyes or meditating on the Ancient One sitting cross-legged on the futon. Li Feng walked up to the Ancient One. This Ancient One's eyes opened. After a long time, Ancient One got up and walked to the window, looked at the distant scenery and sighed, and whispered, Fate, another group of apprentices are about to sacrifice. Although Li Feng opened his eyes to look at each other when Ancient One got up, he sighed at Ancient One and said that he could not continue. From the tone of Ancient One, Li Feng clearly heard that Ancient One saw that these apprentices went out to hunt the demons, but they were mostly killed by the demons. How did Li Feng respond? Say let those who are destined to die stay in Kamatage. Would Ancient One not know to do this? This is equivalent to seeing the future through time and changing the present. What if the long river of time diverges because some people survived, or it flows in an unknown direction? How do you let Ancient One guard the earth? You must know that it is because Ancient One is familiar with the future that the entire earth has become her home ground. When the invaders descend on the earth, Ancient One can know the weakness of the other party, so that the fear of Thanos, Dormammu, etc. will survive. I don't know how long. If you lose the home court advantage, Ancient One is still very strong, but the effort expended has doubled. This is tantamount to accelerating the death time of Ancient One. After all, Ancient One has to spend its mind to resist the dark energy. Anyway, Guo Lifeng, who has been affecting him for a long time, said that he couldn't bear it, so let's honestly assume that he didn't hear what Ancient One was saying. After a while, Ancient One turned around and sat back opposite Li Feng, reaching out to signal Li Feng to take out the magic book. Li Feng obediently handed the magic book to Ancient One with both hands, only to see that Ancient One did not take the magic book, but to sort his thoughts sideways, and reached out to point on the magic book. Li Feng had seen scenes like enlightening magic books, and he used to do this when Barstow recorded the spells he knew in the magic books. Seeing Ancient One withdraw his hand, Li Feng's surface was calm, but his inner teeth were showing his back teeth. He couldn't wait to open the magic book to see what magic Ancient One recorded. Ancient One is not in a hurry. It's okay to wait for Li Feng to finish checking the spells related to the flow of time he has compiled. For a long time, Li Feng, who felt that he had gained a lot, raised his head and said to Ancient One, "Thank you, Master, for your teaching." Ancient One shook his head with a smile, and said, "You can still do this without my help. Just like you can now slow down the flow of time and increase the growth time of plants on the side." Li Feng was embarrassed on his face. He was practicing time spells in secret, and Ancient One, who was very sensitive to time, would definitely find out, but he didn't expect that the other party would even know the progress of his spell casting. Fortunately, Bastow's time spells would not be right. The long time will have an impact. Otherwise Ancient One would not hand over the spells that had worked so hard to sort out the time to Li Feng. Ancient One hesitated slightly, and said, "Li Feng, what do you think of Mordu?" "What do you think?" The face looks black from side to side, and the whole body is black after stripping off the clothes. A typical black man. Li Feng scratched his head and asked, "I don't know what you are asking, Master." This question was originally a bit extensive, and Li Feng really didn't know the answer. Little slippery. After a smile, Ancient One said faintly, "You don't know much about the things you can travel through." Li Feng really didn't understand this. He didn't know where to start. He only knew that the quantum energy in the body was mobilized to communicate for a long time, and then opened the crossing door. After being swallowed by the crossing door, he experienced a journey of squeezing the rubber pipe. Then arrive at Otherworld. The crossing is that simple. As for the specific principle, Li Feng, a rookie magician, can understand a ball. He shook his head blankly, saying that Li Feng, who he didn't know, was listening, waiting for Ancient One to explain to him. It's just that what Ancient One wants to say has nothing to do with the principle of traversal. Although you didn't publicize your ability to traverse Otherworld before, many people know that there is Mordu among them. He is a little envious of your ability and wants to be with you. Go to Otherworld to broaden your horizons, but he is embarrassed to speak. Let me ask you if you can bring him when you cross. Li Feng frowned. He really didn't keep secret about his ability to travel through Otherworld. It was not that he didn't want to, but it was unnecessary. This is the Marvel world. Although S.H.I.E.L.D. cannot track magical energy now, Li Feng will definitely be involved with S.H.I.E.L.D. in the future. S.H.I.E.L.D. will definitely collect Li Feng's information and energy characteristics secretly, and the energy fluctuations caused by Li Feng's crossing it will definitely be discovered by the other party. When Fury comes to the door, how does Li Feng explain the energy fluctuations and the disappearance in the Marvel world caused by his passage? Moreover, Crossing this incident is also one of Li Fang's deterrent methods. Don't mess with Lao Su, or Lao Su will run away in minutes, and then return to the Marvel world with a bunch of magic viruses and so on. Let you know what is magic zombie massacre. It doesn't matter if you haven't heard of zombie viruses, ghouls, zombies. It doesn't matter if you haven't heard of the existence of these viruses that can spread the virus. Do you always know about the Black Death? In many legends, the Black Death is a kind of black magic. Only now, Li Fang has a new idea. Listening to the meaning of Ancient One's words, can I not only travel by myself, but also lead people through? Does this mean that I can organize an army in Otherworld and bring it to the Marvel world to dominate? Immediately, Li Fang gave up his dream of dominating hegemony, too tired. I still have a peaceful life as a rich man. First of all, he is not a leader-level figure, and he has no ambition to dominate, so let alone dominate the world. He feels powerless and convulsed even thinking of the effort required to organize some forces. A person who has been lazy for 2 lifetimes, the word laziness has long been deep into the bone marrow and portrayed into his genes, even if the gene-directed therapy target technology is not well treated, so I want Li Fang to make a change. Impossible. But it's still fun to bring a couple of partners back to the Marvel world. Who should I take? How is Merlin? Ancient One and Fury must have wonderful expressions when they met Mei Lin. And after the descendants of the gods came to this world, Odin's expression must be very wonderful. With some uncertainty, Li Fang asked Shanshan, Master, how do I take people across? Hearing Li Fang's words, Ancient One couldn't help but roll his eyes. It's not that I can open the crossing door, how do I know how you crossed? However, Ancient One still heard Li Fang's idea of bringing people back from Otherworld, and after thinking about it, Ancient One warned seriously, the world is different from the law of the world. There are some people you can't bring over easily. In this world's rule, death on the spot is light, and it is possible for a soul to be detained in this world forever. Once the soul is detained, it is conceivable that the opponent will transform into a demon and other creatures under the years of torture. Considering that Li Fang is not a worry-free guy, and Li Fang already knows how to evade the magic detection of Holy Place, if some magical creatures sneak into this world, she is really hard to detect for a while. Ancient One stared at Li Fang's eyes. Said in a stern tone, I'll make a rule with you, and any magical creatures you bring back must report to me. Holy Place magician's duty is to prevent the invasion of magical creatures from other spaces. As soon as Li Fang brings back any magical creature, it will trigger the Holy Place alarm. Even if Li Fang knows how to evade detection by the Holy Place, he can't avoid it for a while. My goal is to collect infinite gems, and then open the door to go home. I have not thought about bringing any creatures to the Marvel world. Merlin and other big shots are just thinking about it. I want to take others to play, but they may not be happy. It's okay to agree to the Ancient One's registration requirements. After all, who is right about the future? If I really bring back any creatures, I will treat them as a register of magic creatures. After all, I have to apply for a passport when I go abroad. There is no reason to cross. I don't need a passport yet. Compared to being chased and killed by a group of magicians, it's better to register at Ancient One without worry. In response, Li Fang nodded affirmatively, and said, then I will inform Mordor now. Come and go for a trip. Ancient One shook his head and said, a few days later, Mordor still has important things to do. Putting down the teacup in her hand, Ancient One signaled that while Mordu was busy going out these days, Li Fang had raised any magical doubts and let her live the addiction of her mentor. Since Ancient One has said so, Li Fang definitely won't be polite. At this time, whoever is polite will be the mallet. Opening the magic book, Li Fang pointed to the unintelligible part of the book, scratched his head and asked, with regard to the resurrection of inanimate objects such as metal bulls and stone-carved mice, I only understand the use of a little spiritual body attached to dead objects. To achieve the purpose of manipulation, but the specific principles of how to operate, I did not understand after watching it for a long time. Ancient One took the magic book and answered Li Fang one by one with a smile. Time quietly came to the night in the two people's question and answer. Even the Ancient One magician, who is in charge of the Eye of Agamotto, still can't stop the passage of time. When Li Fang returned to the room, he turned his head to look at the magic long knife, thinking, should I find time to find a coach, practice the knife skills, and always rely on cruelty and slashing when he can't face the enemy? in case of encounter when a master swordsman gave me an empty-handed sword, wouldn't the long sword I worked so hard to say goodbye to me? It's just that in the Marvel world, who is better at swordsmanship, but people are unknown. Li Feng, who didn't want to be easily found by S.H.I.E.L.D., first excluded people like Hawkeye. What's the difference between looking for Hawkeye to learn knives and running in front of Fry? After thinking about it for a long time, Li Feng couldn't figure out who to learn swordsmanship. I think I should go to Otherworld to find a master to learn swordsmanship. After all, it is famous in Otherworld. Even if S.H.I.E.L.D. knows that there is such a character, it can't find out anything. Investigation: who made S.H.I.E.L.D. not be able to pass through? No wonder Li Feng learned Otherworld's sword skills for stealing. Thinking of this, Li Feng sorted out his belongings, prepared to wait for Mordu to return to Kamatage, and then came to the scene and said to leave. Definitely, before crossing, he had to call on Roar with Ancient One. After all, the starting point for the trip to Otherworld is Kamatage. To say that Li Feng, who lives in Kamatage, hides the energy fluctuations when passing through, this is a kind of disrespect to Kamatage. Who has seen a guest deliberately hide a mana fluctuation from the owner? The trouble with not hiding the mana fluctuations is that when Li Feng returns, he will definitely trigger the Holy Place Magic Creatures Invasion alarm. When a group of magicians circle around Li Feng's room, how do you let Li Feng as a guest face Ancient One? The magician, who was guarding the local world, was nervous. Why did the world dare to land and invade directly at the Kamatage? Then, Li Feng, who bowed and apologized, was beaten by many magicians to vent his anger. A few days later, Mordu returned to Kamatage with a haggard look, and Li Feng, who had been waiting impatiently, walked into Mordu's room, frowning and looking at each other. Li Feng saw what annoyance Mordu had encountered this time out, and the other party's condition was obviously not good. Li Feng, who was leaning on the door frame, said softly, "Are you okay? You look." Mordu looked up at Li Feng, smiled reluctantly, let out a long breath and said, "It's nothing." After that, Mordu poured a cup of tea to Li Feng and said, "Is Ancient One telling you that I want to go to Otherworld to broaden my vision?" Li Feng nodded, looked sideways at Mordu with a tangled expression on his face, and said, "Is it convenient to talk about what happened to you during this trip?" Before leaving Kamatage, Mordu had no such serious concerns. Now he returned from the completion of the mission. It was obvious that there was something unexpected about this trip. Li Feng said that he was very curious. Mordu thinks this is Kamatage's internal affairs. It is not easy to negotiate with outsiders too much, but Li Feng and Kamatage are very familiar and are favored by Ancient One magician, plus Li Feng's relationship with Grandpa Li Feng, and Li Feng is now in Kamatage. Mordu subconsciously regarded Li Feng as Kamatage's magician, hesitation, and still told the cause of the matter. The mission to find and eliminate the devil this time was set out by 3 masters with 6 apprentices. This is not only a mission to protect the earth, but also the 3 masters to test apprentices in actual combat and make preliminary selections for future key training. Originally, such a task was very common in Kamatage. In Mordu's view, 3 masters held the battle and allowed 6 apprentices to fight against a weak devil to hone their spells. There would be no casualties at all. Unfortunately, there was an accident in the end. A seemingly weak devil actually learned to hide his strength. Surrounded by 6 apprentices, he burst out of unexpected strength. Killed 3 apprentices on the spot and waited for 3 masters to react. When they came to prepare to do their own hands, only Caecilius of the 6 apprentices escaped because of clever dodge. After that, the devil was severely injured by the 3 masters. The devil turned and fled when he was about to win. The 3 magicians such as Mordu naturally went to chase, leaving Caecilius waiting in place. The reason why the devil is called the devil is because it is good at deceiving and the methods are not discoverable by ordinary people. Just like now, what Mordu and others are chasing after it is only a phantom of it, and the body is still hiding in place. When the badly wounded devil was hiding in place, he was discovered by cautious Caecilius. Caecilius knew that he was not the opponent of the devil, even if the opponent was badly injured. After discovering that the devil had also noticed him, Caecilius decided to delay the time with mouth escape, and return to rescue himself after Mordu magician realized that he had been pawned by the devil. But before the devil launches an attack, Caecilius feels that he still needs to put on a pose, as long as he bluffs the devil and makes the devil feel that he is a hard bone to gnaw. Caecilius carried his hands on his back, pretending to be strong in his own power, looked at the devil with pity in his eyes, and said, "Your leader is a real brain handicapped, and he knows that he is not an opponent of Ancient One but also brought your group of cannon fodder to invade." The devil curled his lips and said that Caecilius's acting skills were too bad. He could see that the other party was pretending at a glance, but he knew that the movement of killing Caecilius was enough to make the Mordu 3 return early. If he spoiled his plan to return to hell, he would be true. Is going to sleep on Earth. Moreover, the purpose of the leader coming to the Earth is not to invade at all, but to be assigned by the boss to see how much dark energy in the Ancient One has corroded. Otherwise there are so many forces staring at the Earth, it is really necessary to invade. Among the forces of the Earth, the leader of his family is considered a ball with such a strength, and it is not bad to be able to follow the big guys and drink some soup. So far, the task is not bad. The leader uses his own little fate to find out the details of Ancient One. The devil turned his head and looked around, thinking, although he spent a few days in the Wawa world on the Earth deserves to be the fat in the eyes of many big brothers. Such a beauty, she will return to hell before she enjoys her rights, but... The devil squinted at Caecilius, thinking, but before I return to hell to report the letter, it would be a good idea to sprinkle some mouse shit in your magician pot. Thinking of this, the devil said faintly, it's okay if Ancient One is powerful. After all, everyone uses dark energy, and her Ancient One ability is indeed higher than my leader. At least my leader can't grab the dark energy from Dormammu. It is normal that the leader is not an Ancient One opponent. Turning his head, the devil said with a smile, look, my leader can live for countless years, and the old immortal of Ancient One can be alive and kicking, which only shows the power of dark energy. What kind of person is Ancient One in Caecilius's eyes? It is not an exaggeration to say that it is his reborn parents. How can a person who emits the light of the Virgin as a person who uses dark energy in the devil's mouth? Caecilius retorted on the spot. You're talking nonsense. Ancient One is so powerful and has lived for so many years because she has no one else's understanding of time spells. The devil spread his hands, feeling that the spell of returning to hell is about to be completed. With an expression that he can't seduce Caecilius as much as he can, he turned his eyes away from Mordu and others who were flying in the distance, and said, really? I thought you were. Knowing that Dormammu is the existence of a bit beyond time, Ancient One can naturally live a long time by taking in the dark energy of Dormammu. The returning Mordor naturally couldn't hear what the devil said to Caecilius, he only saw the devil escaping back to hell, and Caecilius with more confused eyes. On the way back to Taj Kama, Mordu always felt that Caecilius had something in his heart after talking to the devil. You must know that the creature, the devil, was ranked among the top 3 races in terms of temptation. He was afraid that Caecilius was tempted by the devil. It's just that there is no evidence, and he can only guess by his feelings. It is not good for him to speak directly to Ancient One. It will be suspected that he is jealous of Cassia's ability and is suspected of undermining the unity of magician. After listening to Mordu's words, Li Feng didn't know how to persuade Mordu. After all, he didn't know that the devil would tell Caecilius about Ancient One's use of dark energy. Follow him. If you think Caecilius is suspected of being tempted by the devil, just watch it carefully in the future, and just pretend that you care about Caecilius' magic practice. No one will say anything about you. Mordor thought for a while, nodded and said, that's all there is. By the way, when will we leave Otherworld? Li Feng spread his hands and said, I can do it at any time. It depends on your opinion. By the way, I would like to remind you that you can only carry magical props when you cross. Don't wear it anymore, change to a magician gown. Before the journey, Li Feng first discussed with Ancient One about the holy place alarm that would be alarmed when he returned to the Marvel world. Li Feng didn't want to face a group of magicians holding magical weapons when he returned to the Marvel world. Heart disease. After that, Li Feng returned to his room with Mordu, who was a little excited by being able to travel through Otherworld. Ancient One looked at Li Feng and Mordu when they were leaving, and the corners of his mouth rose slightly, thinking, it is a pity that I need to pay attention to the Earth at all times, and I cannot easily leave the Earth to travel to Otherworld. Otherwise, once the creatures in the different space notice that I am leaving, I am afraid that I will leave. Invade the Earth immediately. Mordor, Mordor, your ability is good, but your personality. I hope that after several times of the baptism of Otherworld, you can understand that in addition to black and white, there is also gray in this world. You don't have to hold the law that magician must maintain a natural balance. After all, magician is actually a group of understanding rules, using rules, and breaking the existence of rules. Active and passive choices have different effects on the timeline. Now that you take the initiative to raise your knowledge in Otherworld, it means that your destiny has turned. I hope you will. Can change your destiny of betraying Taj in the future. Back in the room, Li Feng checked his equipment routinely. Sling ring in his left hand, magic gem ring in his right hand, wearing clothes with clean magic, a magic long knife, magic book and a few magic playing cards. These should be able to deal with some dangers. It can be said that Li Feng will be able to bring all the props. He doesn't want to die in Otherworld because of insufficient preparation. Taking a deep breath, Li Feng stretched out his hand to activate the quantum energy to open the blue and white crossing door, and he experienced the movement of quantum energy and the changes in the portal, which is crucial for him to thoroughly master the crossing door in the future. At present, Li Feng doesn't know anything except to open the door. He can only rely on the detailed understanding of the difference every time he opens the door, and find out the rules of the crossing during the crossing, in case he is playing in Otherworld one day, and waits to return. 100 years have passed since Marvel World time. Seeing the crossing door opened, Li Feng said to Mordu, "Hold on to my arm. By the way, dear, have you eaten?" As soon as the voice fell, the blue and white crossing door instantly wrapped Li Feng and Mordu, who was confused by Li Feng's question. To be honest, even if Li Feng is cautiously facing crossing every time, he is still a little nervous and scared. After all, he doesn't know what the world is across from Crossing Gate. If he meets the protagonist he is familiar with, he can still think of the starting point. The plot, but there are so many worlds, who can guarantee that Li Feng will meet the world he is familiar with the plot? For example, this time, Li Feng, who crossed the gate, looked at the world of withered yellow weeds under his feet. Where is this? Standing in the wilderness and looking at the medieval-style towns in the distance, Li Feng scratched his eyebrows, bowed his head and said to the vomiting Mordor beside him, "The flight to Otherworld has arrived. Please stop the passengers." The captain vomited 100 meters away, because the smell of your vomit will affect the captain's good mood and appetite. Mordu, who had already finished vomiting, heard Li Feng say something about vomiting and appetite, and he subconsciously retched twice. He rolled his eyes and said, "Can you remind me not to eat before crossing next time? The lunch I just ate was all vomited. Empty." Leaning on Li Feng's shoulder, Mordu looked at the distant town and said, "By the way, your airline's flight service is too poor and it will close down sooner or later. What kind of travel experience is this? I feel like I need like a dough. Knead it off, then tuck it into the pipe and be squeezed." Li Feng shrugged, looked down at his toes, and said, "You can get used to it like me if you get squeezed a few times. Look at me, I don't have any signs of vomiting at all. Ma Dan, the clothes are on my body, but I forgot to prepare a pair of magic shoes, which caused me to come into this world barefoot. My poor slippers, how can you abandon me and stay in the Marvel world? Don't know how deeply I love you." Mordu on the side was also sad. Although there was a kind reminder from Li Feng before the crossing, his shoes were magic shoes and his clothes were also vestments, but underwear, panties and socks were not magic products, so now he is playing in a vacuum. "Where is this?" Mordu, who felt better, rubbed his stomach and asked, "How do I feel back to the Middle Ages?" "You ask me." Li Feng started, walking towards the town and said, "I ask who to go, I still want to know what world I have come into. Every time I cross to Otherworld, I don't have an accompanying manual, so I feel it slowly. What kind of world is this?" Approaching the entrance of the small town, the two of you look at me and I look at you, not dare to approach the small city easily. Mordor touched his chin and looked at the cross flag of the Holy See floating on the gate in the distance, as well as the soldier guarding the gate, wearing clothes with a cross painted on his chest, and muttered, "Trouble, this is really a medieval Earth. It's still the time when the Holy See family dominates." There is no need to elaborate on the trouble. Li Feng naturally knows the attitude of the Holy See in the Middle Ages towards them who know how to magic. Take a look at how the Holy See deals with witches in history: hanging, burning, drowning, or hanging the witch first, then drowning the witch for a day, and finally dragging it out of the water to burn the corpse. Although Li Feng knew that he did not travel through history, but went to a certain film and television drama, as long as the movie about the middle world appeared in the Holy See, magicians still could not escape the fate of various persecution. Looking down at his feet, Li Feng turned his head and glanced at Mordu next to him, and asked in a low voice, "What do we do now? We don't look like locals. I still want to go into the city to get a pair of shoes, and walk barefoot. Mord's clothes are fine, ordinary people can't see a pair of magic boots, and the boots are nothing great in the Middle Ages. Although he appears in a vacuum, he can at least see the appearance of a monk, but his body is so clean that it can't be rubbed. Chunawan will still be eye-catching. Because bathing was not popular in the Middle Ages. Under the guidance of the Holy See, people feel that dirty bodies are closer to God. If you don't bathe, it is a symbol of holiness. Like Mordor and Li Feng, they have clean clothes and bodies. It is estimated that they will be treated as if they enter the city heresy. And the problem of barefoot Li Feng's trousers is easy to explain, but sleeveless shirts are not like medieval costumes, and a black and a yellow race are clearly heretics recognized by the Holy See. They will only be put to death if they enter the city. Rolling his eyes, Morden lost his heart of entering the city in broad daylight, and said silently, "As a modern man, I walk in panties without panties. I still want to go into the city to buy some clothes. Say you bring money with me. Already. Buying shoes. I think you are going to steal it." Li Feng spread his hands, sat cross-legged on the ground and looked at Xiaocheng, and said, "What can I do if I don't steal? I can convince the boss to give me a pair of shoes with my mouth." Pointing to the city guard at the entrance of the small city, Li Feng scratched his head and said, "I want to have this eloquence and directly persuade the group of soldiers in cross suits to let us into the city. What is the specific situation?" Mordu didn't care whether Li Feng was resting or sleeping. Squinting his eyes and looking at the distance made him feel a strange little town. After a long time, Mordu's tone was slightly angry when he saw something, and he whispered, "There is a devil's breath above the small town." Li Feng, who was already drowsy, opened his eyes instantly, got up and looked up at Xiaocheng, turned his head and asked Mordu, "Are you sure there is a devil?" The appearance of the Holy See in medieval film and television dramas is easy to understand, but the appearance of the devil. No wonder my crossing door can be opened. The appearance of the devil does not prove from the side that the world has extraordinary power. Li Feng, who lowered his head thinking about what world he was in, smiled bitterly and said, "There are too few clues to analyze which film and television drama it is." "I don't know." Mordu touched the scepter artifact behind him, and whispered, "I only perceive a very faint devil breath. We need to check if there is any devil." Li Feng expressed his understanding of Mordu's attitude towards the devil. After all, Mordu saw a devil cut vegetables and killed 5 apprentices a few days ago. Now he suspects that a devil appears in front of him. Mordu is not excited and does not want to kill. The devil is to blame, but... Li Feng looked at Mordu seriously. He felt a little pain in his brain. 2 magicians were chasing after the devil in the Middle Ages. Moreover, they are still under the eyes of the Holy See. If this is not a problem, they will be wanted by the Holy See for colluding with the devil. A journey of good knowledge becomes a journey of escape. Without waiting for Li Feng to think about it, he said that Mordu had given up tracing the whereabouts of the devil, and the peaceful town in the distance suddenly became noisy. Li Feng could still hear vaguely. "Kill the devil and avenge the family. Kill the witch, she brought the plague." Li Feng believed that his ears could not misheard, but still with a certain degree of uncertainty, he turned to ask Mordu, "People in the small city, talking about the devil and the plague." Mordu said with a serious face, "I heard it too. I think I felt the devil's breath over the small city before, and possibly the plague's breath brought by the devil from hell. So this world not only has the devil, but also the plague on the mysterious side. I don't want to go into the city to steal a pair of shoes and food. Instead, I want to run far away. Who knows if these plagues are effective for us? In case we are also infected with the plague, I still want to go home. I heard the child call me dad." Without waiting for Li Feng to persuade Mordu to leave, Mordu suddenly lowered Li Feng's figure. The two squinted at several people dressed as knights, as well as a priest and an unidentified person escorting a prison car from the city gate. "Get out. I just think the knight leading the white horse is a bit familiar. Isn't this Nicolas Cage?" Knight dressed up. Li Feng faintly guessed, murmured, okay, in the world of Magician's Apprentice, you teach me magic. It is estimated that you should teach me swordsmanship in this world. Patting Mordu on the shoulder, Li Feng said with his eyes, we keep up with the team. Mordor thought for a while and nodded for the two to quietly follow up to check the situation, because the little girl in the prison car always gave him a weird feeling, and when the prison car left the city gate, the people in the city shouted to the little girl, which devil, wait, he thinks the devil may be hidden in the little girl. Before the two of Li Feng had gone far, Mordu suddenly heard the sound of horses running behind him, and hurriedly signaled Li Feng to hide. After a while, a man wearing a linen cloak on a horse passed by Li Feng without realizing it. Li Feng, who was hiding in the grass, looked thoughtfully at the other person's distant back. Now, as long as I look at the cross swords used by the previous knights, I can tell if this is the movie I remember. Mordu got up and looked at the knight who was going away, then turned to ask Li Feng, I can see from your eyes that you have some understanding of the world. Is it convenient to explain? Obviously both of them came to this world for the first time. How did Li Feng learn about this world? Mordu was curious. Li Feng scratched his head. He really couldn't explain the problem. He curled his lips and said, I just remembered that I hurriedly saw the sign on the cross sword of a knight in front of me. It seemed to be the sign of the Holy Sea's crusade. Mordu was a little confused. The cross flag of the small town behind him already showed that there was a Holy See in this world. Isn't it normal for a crusade to appear? And Mordu, who thought he had better eyesight, didn't find any cross swords. How did Li Feng pay attention? The most important thing is, does this have anything to do with the question I asked? However, since Li Feng used nonsense to cover up the question of how he found out where this is, Mordu is not asking. After all, everyone has some little secrets. Even if Li Feng is malicious, Mordu doesn't care. Li Feng has practiced like this for less than 3 years. As a little rookie, he can destroy the opponent with one hand. It's amazing that he can't return to the original world. The big deal is to create a magician holy place in this world and continue to fight against the demons who dare to invade the earth. As for his carelessness to allow Li Feng to escape back to the original world, Mordu said that the shrewd ancient one must see something, and Li Feng will have nothing to eat by then. Thinking of this, Mordor rolled his eyes at Li Feng and said, let's go, I want to see if the girl who makes me feel weird is the incarnation of the devil. Li Feng shrugged, followed behind Mordu towards the direction of the prison car, muttering in his heart, if the world is really like the movie I thought, you didn't even bring the magic weapon to check whether the devil is possessed, you can see that. Ghost. The two fast-footed two followed the prison car in a short while and saw an old man with a gray beard hitting a young man with a sword in his left hand. Seeing this scene, Li Feng curled his lips. He had already determined that this was the world of the witches' season. The knight who resembles the 777 magician Barstow is officially the protagonist of the world, who believes in God but dislikes the Holy See's use of faith to slaughter women by Bailey Brock Beeman. In the distance, the person who used his left-handed sword to sling the young man was Beeman's friend Furson. The two were formerly victorious generals in the Crusades. The two who had spent decades on the battlefield withdrew from the Crusaders because they were dissatisfied with their superiors ordering them to slaughter women and elderly people. After a month of wandering, the two men needed food and rest for their horses. And enter the small town Li Feng they discovered. As soon as the two entered the city, they were found out by the Crusaders and imprisoned. During the period, the bishop of the small city hoped that they would escort a witch who had brought plague to the world to Sphoric Abbey, where there is a magical Solomon, the spell book can effectively destroy the witch and purify the plague in this world. Neiman, who was disappointed with the Holy See, refused the bishop's request without even thinking about it, until he found in the prison that the bishop's mouth looked more like a little girl's witch. In the end, Beeman, who was moved with compassion, proposed that as long as the little girl suspected of being a witch accepts a fair trial, he is willing to escort the little girl to Sphoric Abbey. After that, the little girl Li Feng saw was sent to the prison wagon, and led a knight, a priest, and a liar out of the city to Sphoric Abbey and Beeman. Beeman and Furson have been in the battlefield for decades without missing parts. They maintain a high level of police equipment during the battle, and habitually observe the vicinity to prevent hidden enemies around. Beeman quickly stopped Furson, who was fighting against the young man, and the two turned to look at Li Feng and Mordu, who were not hiding at all. Furson replaced the cross sword with his usual right hand to prevent the battle from breaking out, and said to Beeman with his lips, "The sacrifice boy who followed us before can still say that he wants our approval and fantasizes about becoming a knight. It's not like a sacrifice to a child, it's more like a monk and heresy." Mordor could feel that the team escorting the witches were ordinary people, but even if there were extraordinary ones, he didn't care. He only cared whether the little girl in the prison car was a devil or not. If the little girl was a devil, there was nothing to say. Nonsense, he killed the devil on the spot. Li Feng cast his eyes on Beeman, who was guarding himself, as if talking to himself, and then silently saying to Beeman, "It is true that there is no witch in the prison car, but it is not a witch who was beaten by the Holy See as you thought. But inside the body, there is a devil hidden." Then, Li Feng silently looked at Mordor, who ignored Beeman and others walking towards the prison car, and muttered in his heart, "If you haven't detected the magic weapon of the devil, you can't see the devil in the little girl's body, because this cunning devil is not there at all. Killing the little girl's soul, but coexisting with the little girl's soul in the same body, so you can sense the little girl's weird soul, but don't want to detect the devil by feeling." In this age when whites are everywhere, and blacks are rarer than pandas, Beeman subconsciously drew a cross sword to stop Mordor, and said, "Two people, can you explain what I mean?" Mordor looked at Berman and pointed to the prison car and said, "I feel the breath of the devil, please allow me to check it out." Beeman felt a little ridiculous. It was obviously for the poor little girl. The Holy See said she was a witch. The guy who grew up like charcoal said that the little girl was a devil. Then the question is the poor little girl a witch or devil? The devil in the prison was stunned when he heard Mordu's words. He squinted and looked at the two people who suddenly appeared. He sensed the mana in Mordu and Li Feng, and knew that these two were not ordinary people, but he knew that the two of them were fundamentally different. It's impossible to see his body, so he looked at Mordu and Li Feng leisurely, especially Li Feng. He could feel that the opponent's mana was biased towards the dark. Beeman glanced and spread his hands and said that he did not believe what Mordor was talking about. He turned his head and sneered at Mordor, "But why do I think you are more like a devil, a bilk mn?" With Beeman's bilk mn, Li Feng felt that it was time for him to play, otherwise he would be able to see the magician fighting the knights without stopping Mordor and Beeman. Li Feng walked to Beeman and touched the magic sword on his waist and said, "We are travelers traveling around. Can we join your team temporarily? I want to learn swordsmanship from you." The priest of the church who was fighting against Furson, the priest said that he knew that the other party was named Kai. In addition, the wonderful battle between Kai and Furson was recognized by Beeman, so he asked a person with knowledge to join the team of escorting the witch. Nothing to refute, but the priest Li Feng and the black Mordu, the priest, were not so friendly. He just hid in the distance and shouted to Beeman, "No, I don't agree with you joining the team, you are heretics." "Heresy, your sister." Li Feng, who was inexplicably accused of being heresy, said that he was very upset. He stretched out his hand and took out the magic playing card from his pocket, ready to use a fireball to recruit Father Roar. In this world, Li Feng only dared to be interested in a spell book Solomon, and all swordsmanship must be kept behind. Now the priest makes Li Feng feel uncomfortable. Li Feng doesn't care how the devil living in the girl wants to occupy the world. What he wants is to kill the priest and go to Esfraco Abbey to grab the spell book, and then return to the Marvel world to study the spell book slowly. Mordu, who was observing the little girl in the prison car through Beeman's figure, was unhappy that he was called a bilk mn, but he still reached out to stop Li Feng. At present, he cares about the devil, it's just. Mordor frowned and asked Li Feng in a low voice, "I can't feel the devilish breath of the little girl, but this little girl gives me a weird feeling. Can you see anything? Look at the wool, isn't it?" Halfway through, Li Feng noticed that the little girl in the prison car squinted at him, her eyes seemed to be full of warning. Li Feng suddenly realized that the drama is cool for a while, and it will be fatal when it is finished, especially when he is still a rookie and has limited mana and spells. If he is here to pierce the identity of the devil, let the impatient devil run out of the prison car. Except for Mordu's little combat effectiveness, it might be finished, including himself. Li Feng is not sure that Mordor can always pester the devil, so that he can open the portal leisurely and escape, especially if he exposes the identity of the devil, makes the devil's plan twists and turns, and who is the first target of the devil who reveals his identity to kill? Definitely is Li Feng. Maiden, you devil dare to threaten me with your eyes, and when I am ready to get away with the spell at any time, let Mordu take care of you. Either wait for me to find the Solomon spell book so that I have the means to restrain you and kill you myself. Thinking of this, Li Feng rubbed his cheeks, put on a fake smile, and smiled and said to the priest, since I am a heresy, then I have to join your team, so that you have time to see if I am or not heresy. You wait, see how I play to death, your priest who likes to be forced. Beeman glanced at the playing cards in Li Feng's hand. As a soldier who tied his head to his trouser belt all the year round, he felt the threat of the cards in Li Feng's hand. Originally, Beeman did not agree with Li Feng joining the team. After all, the two people have unknown origins and unclear goals. They just heard Mordu say, if you disagree, follow the team quietly. Beeman had to look black. They agreed to join the team that escorted the witch. Compared to the two making trouble in the back of the team, Beeman believes that the two can't make trouble under his nose. In this way, Mordu and Li Feng joined the team when everyone looked at them with defensive eyes from time to time. During the period, Li Feng indeed joined the team with the purpose of learning swordsmanship from Beeman, as he said before, and kept asking Beeman about how to practice swordsmanship. Although Beeman possesses a powerful swordsmanship, it is all he has honed in the battlefield. Apart from the basic training method, he does not teach others how to fight. In addition, he is now charged with the task of escorting a little girl. He didn't want to teach Li Feng how to practice swordsmanship on the way. It's just that Beeman obviously underestimated Li Feng's patience and lip service. In the end, he couldn't stand Li Feng nagging endlessly. Beeman pointed to Kai behind him, and said to Li Feng, I want to learn swordsmanship with me. Then you practice with Kai first. Orthodox swordsmanship, when you can easily defeat Kai that day, you are looking for me. After that, Beeman kicked the white horse under his belly and trot to the front of the team. At night, Beeman and others lit a bonfire to rest and eat. Although Mordu, who was faintly surrounded by the crowd, was sitting by the fire, his eyes were full of doubts and looked at the prison car from time to time. He was puzzled. It was not the first time he saw a devil who could hide his breath. It was just that as long as he was closer and carefully observed, he could always find flaws and kill the devil calmly. But this time, the more he watched, the more he felt that there was just ordinary little girl, and the weirdness is more like an illusion. Judging from the fact that Li Feng had only said half of what he had said before, Mordu felt that Li Feng knew the reason why he felt weird, but he didn't know why Li Feng would not continue to say it. Mordu patted Li Feng on the shoulder, pointed to the prison car vaguely, and asked in a low voice, do you know the reason why I feel weird? Li Feng turned his head and glanced at the little girl, scratched his eyebrows, picked up a piece of food from the fire, and walked towards the prison car and said, I will experience it slowly. This is a rare experience. By the way, stay vigilant. I want you to show off. Li Feng didn't take a few steps. The priest stood up and stopped with a stern tone, and his words were full of distrust. What do you want to do? What do you want to show off? Do you want to let the dark witch go? I let your uncle. Li Feng didn't even look at the priest. He went straight through the priest and said, are you blind or something? Didn't you see me just giving her some food? I'm talking about even the keys. No, how do you open the prison wagon? Or do you stand aside stupidly and watch me split the prison wagon with a long knife? Beeman glanced at the long knife on Li Feng's waist, motioned the priest to sit down with his eyes, and touched his cross sword, and said, you'd better not play tricks, and be careful when your head falls. Li Feng shrugged without turning his head, took the food and walked to the side of the prison car. After snapping his fingers, he handed the food to the little girl with his back to him, and said, you don't need food, but your body can bear it. I can't get hungry. I don't want to be physically hungry when I arrive at Esfraco. I think you'd better eat something obediently. The devil in the prison car was a little confused. The snapping of Li Feng's fingers when he approached him seemed to make the sound of glass breaking, and he clearly felt the spell fluctuations, but he was sure that he hadn't felt any harm. At the same time, he was not sure whether Li Feng really knew that he was hiding in the little girl's body, or it was a simple temptation. Just as the devil sorted out his sentence and tried to find out who Li Feng was, he heard Li Feng quietly saying, you can rush to the Sphoric Abbey by yourself. Are you a lunatic and don't know where the monastery is? Or you are now in the late stage of lazy cancer? Patient, if you have to take a prison car and let others wait for you all the way, do you really treat yourself as an uncle? At this time, the devil can be sure that Li Feng really knows his own situation, and that he even knows the purpose of his own plan this time. With unkind eyes in his eyes, the devil grabbed the fence, and said with an urn, "Who are you? What's your purpose?" Li Feng turned his head and looked at Mordu in the distance, and said, "Two travelers passing by, as for the destination." Li Feng turned and looked at the devil and said, "Similar to you, it's all for Theosolomon, spellbook, but you want to destroy the spellbook, and I want to get this magical spellbook, you know, any one magic books are a rare asset for a magician. Property." Obviously, Li Feng's words let the devil know that the other party has regarded Theosolomon spellbook as a personal item, and it also shows that the other party will not be disadvantageous to him for the time being, and in a sense, he can become a partner, definitely, is the kind of partner who will tear his skin as soon as he arrives at Esfraco. As for killing Li Feng now, the devil didn't think that it was just that the identity of an ordinary person could not kill Li Feng, and although he could kill Li Feng with his full strength, his identity would definitely be exposed. Just like Li Feng said that he was a road idiot and a lazy cancer, he could not walk into the Sphoric monastery with the body of a devil, because the gates and walls of the monastery were covered with magic patterns. These magic lines not only prevent his devil body from entering the monastery, even if he is possessed by human flesh, he will not enter the monastery. As long as the body is close to the gate, he will slump on the ground and then show some of the characteristics of the devil. When he looks like a devil, he will only become a mass of meat to be slaughtered. Only by sitting on himself without walking, relying on other vehicles such as carts and carts pushed and pulled by others, can he safely pass through the magic pattern gate. If the vehicle passes through the gate of the Sphoric monastery fast enough, it may even show the characteristics of the devil. There will be no time. Once he entered the monastery, the devil didn't think there was anyone else in this world who was his opponent after showing all his power. As for why not a horse carriage but a prison carriage, first of all, although Sphora is the site of the Holy See, but the gate is usually closed, he wants the horse to break through the gate directly, but the horse is not stupid, and will watch him run into it with his horse's face. The gate. If the coachman is forced to break through the gate and enter the monastery, the devil must first find a coachman who is not afraid to offend the Holy See. In the Middle Ages, when the power of the Holy See was much greater than the power of the king, such a coachman who was not afraid of the Holy See's revenge was harder to find than the three-legged toad. So the devil finally chose to lurk in Anna's body and let the people of the Holy See escort him into the Sphoric monastery. Now once Li Feng is killed, his plan is in vain. It can only be said that the devil's mind is a bit novel, he likes to be abused by priests, and he likes to ride in prison cars. Just interested in spells. The devil's eyes rolled and faintly said, "Perhaps we can cooperate. I only need to destroy the pages of spells on Solomon, that can destroy me. I am not interested in the remaining spells. It's okay to send you a spell book. Wipe out. I remember those spells were forcibly sending you back to hell." Li Feng nodded and said, "I like this gift. I don't want to provoke a devil to find myself uncomfortable in vain, so, happy cooperation." Happy cooperation. Li Feng. By the way, I still don't know what you call roar. The devil put the food in his mouth and smiled. "Do you want to ask my name or the little girl's name?" "No matter my real name, the little girl's name is Anna. You can call me Anna during this time." After finishing speaking, the devil also fluffed up the tips of his hair and threw a wink at Li Feng. Scared Li Feng almost drew his sword in self-defense. To say that Anna's appearance is indeed somewhat different, but facing Anna who is controlled by the devil, Li Feng said that this is not just a question of whether Anna is his dish, it also involves the question of the devil's unclear gender and age. Rolling his eyes, Li Feng said silently, "Take away your temptation, and don't look at who you are. If the nobles can use various perfumes to cover up the smell of sweat, how about you? I don't know where to find it. The body that came, I guess that the little girl has never taken a bath in her lifetime, so don't you be afraid of smelling like this." The devil shrugged while eating. "That's because you don't know the suffering of hell. It's good to have a physical body, but you want to pick and choose. You need to know that in order to stay in this physical body for a few more days and not let the physical body rot, I bet even Anna's soul is kept, just driving her to a corner of the body. After eating the food, the devil glanced at Mordu, leaning back on the prison car, and whispered, "Speaking of which, I have a few questions to ask you. You and your companion look different. His mana attributes are very ordinary, yours, well, like the dark." Li Feng looked back at Mordu, and said with a shrug, "I have known this for a long time." "Then your partner knows your mana attributes," the devil said with a faint smile. "I can detect the breath on his body. It is the breath left by the people who killed me not long ago, so I miss you. Your companion is a magician, who is born against the dark camp. I don't know if your companion knows that you will use devil-like spells in the future. What will happen?" Scratching his eyebrows, Li Feng looked at the devil with his arms around his arms, and said in a low voice, "Then what should I do? Kill my companion now?" The corner of the devil's mouth twitched, but he could perceive that Mordu's strength far surpassed Li Feng. Even if he faced Mordu with a certain degree of difficulty, he didn't believe that Li Shengfeng didn't know that he was not Mordu's opponent at all. "Li Feng, tell me what you think. It's meaningless to guess like this." It was ridiculous to say that. The dignified devil felt a little jealous of Mordu's strength. Although the devil and Li Feng reached an intent to cooperate, both knew that there would be a battle after entering the Sphoric monastery. At that time, the only opponent of the devil was Mordu. Fortunately, the great devil destroyed the Solomon spellbook and slowly fought Mordu. He did not believe that the massive mana of his devil's body could not hold back Mordu like a dead man. But with Li Feng, it's different. Although Li Feng is still a rookie in the eyes of the devil, spells are spells. Even a rookie's spells can interfere with him who is fighting against Mordu. If he is not careful, he may be affected by Mordu. Kill on the spot. So what the devil had to do now was to drag Li Feng down to the opposite of Mordu. Once Li Feng made trouble for him, he would tell Mordu that Li Feng belonged to the dark camp. In the devil's mind, the demon hunter is a group of people who eat the past and hate the use of dark spells. Once Mordu knew that Li Feng was using dark mana, then the devil felt that he could hide from the side to watch Mordu kill Li Feng. This kind of human cannibalism was his favorite. It's just that currently he is not sure whether the human rookie magician in front of him will be a dark spell. If not, his plan may have gone slightly wrong. "I have no idea." The devil's mouth curled up slightly and said in a low voice, "I just think you are wasting your ability, or that you didn't find a good master, and I feel sorry for you." Li Feng is not stupid. He can hear what the devil is alluding to, but he also knows Ancient One's attitude towards the use of dark energy. As for Mordu's thoughts, no matter what, there is a way to question Ancient One. Li Feng said straightforwardly, "Do you want to teach me the magic of the devil?" "If you want to learn," the devil shrugged pretendingly, "I don't mind being a human magician's instructor. Definitely, some spells are the ability of the devil, I can't teach them, plus your mana. There are only so few dark spells you can learn." Li Feng rolled his eyes inwardly. "Can I really only teach so many? I am afraid that you are afraid of teaching me a variety of methods, so use these spells to threaten you. But it's not bad to be able to learn more dark spells." After taking out the burning hand from the devil's mouth and waiting for a few simple spells, Li Feng stretched out his hand and snapped his fingers with a smile, and as a burst of glass shattered, and an orange light door passed through him, the devil's pupils shrinking for a while. Although it seems that the few demons not far away are still sitting by the bonfire, which is no different from the scene they saw before, but the devil knows that he still underestimated Li Feng. Just now, he unexpectedly fell into the alien space spell set by the other party unknowingly. Even if he was born insensitive to space spells, he shouldn't fall into the other side's territory so easily. Li Feng's spellcasting methods made the devil feel a little bit scared. If this guy shut me in the different space just now, I would have to work hard to escape, in case the demon hunter over there took the opportunity to ambush outside the different space. My life is in danger. As one person and one devil withdrew from the mirror space, Li Feng said quietly, "For the sake of you continuing to teach me spells, I will not detain you in the mirror space. Remember, we are now partners." After that, Li Feng was not taking care of the devil, and went straight back to Mordu, who opened the portal to cover himself. After all, the movement of the portal was still a bit big. Without Mordu's cover, Li Feng didn't think the movement of the portal could avoid a few people. According to Shi, Li Feng and Mordu didn't want Beeman to know that they could magic, especially when the identities of the people around them were more or less related to the Holy See. With his back facing the devil, Li Feng secretly breathed a sigh of relief. It was not easy to negotiate a deal with the devil, and he could be killed by the devil if he was not careful. Originally, Li Feng just wanted to shut the devil in the mirror space and let him show his prototype. After that, he exited the mirror space, preparing for the portal to escape at any time, and watching Mordor fight the devil, but he didn't expect that there would be unexpected gains. You must know that because of the familiarity of natural mana, the dark spells he knows are barely counted as one communication with the undead. Basto, an ancient one, would not teach him dark spells. Now that there are demons willing to teach them spells, what are you polite? Definitely, Li Feng wouldn't learn these spells before Ancient One checked it. Who knows if the spells taught by the devil have fatal traps. Back to Mordu. Mordu glanced at Anna in the prison car, and whispered, "What did you talk about after entering the mirror space?" Li Feng threw a piece of firewood into the fire, rubbed his hands and said, "It's nothing, just talk about how the other party got on the witch's path of no return." Don't say this, don't believe it. None of the people who warmed the cold believed it, and rolled their eyes at Li Feng, and at the same time they were wondering, mirror space. What is that? Li Feng said with an expression of whether you believe it or not, who is watching at night. The corner of Mordu's mouth twitched. They discussed this issue just now. Originally I wanted to watch the night, but they obviously didn't trust us, let alone let me watch the night. Would you please tie us up and hang on a tree to prevent accidents? Not bad. Li Feng looked at the priest with unkind eyes. Hang up. You blind priest said this idea. Here, Li Feng said that roar made the priest jump up like a priest, and roared at Li Feng and Mordu. You also said that you are not a heresy. A black and a yellow-skinned monkey dare to call roar a priest like that is simply the greatest insult to God. Li Feng didn't care if the priest was so angry that he jumped his feet. He drew a long knife and pointed it at the priest. He barked his teeth and said, "You are talking about a yellow-skinned monkey. I will chop off your head as a urinal. Believe it or not." Mordu also touched the magical weapon with a bad look. As long as the Beeman and others dared to be against him, he immediately let these ordinary people know what the dignity of magician is. Beeman glanced at Li Feng, who was suspected of holding a knife and slashing people. Inside, he immediately judged that Li Feng was a chick who had never killed anyone with a knife. As for Mordu, although the weapon was a short stick, he was more imposing. Li Feng, who holds a long knife in his hand, is even more threatening. It's just that Mordu just touched the short stick and didn't take any further action. In addition, Beeman knew that the priest had tortured Anna in the small city. He had a bad impression of the priest. As long as Li Feng didn't really kill the priest, Beeman didn't care about Li Feng. How did you threaten the priest? Fersen looked at Li Feng, who had no murderous eyes, turned and lay on his paved floor, and said, "You want to make a noise far away, don't disturb me, I'm tired." Ji Tongkai couldn't see that Li Feng was only intimidating the priest. He got up and stood in front of Li Feng and said, "Mr. Austin, threatening the priest will go to hell. Please apologize to Father Debochak." Li Feng, didn't you hear that this guy was the first to speak badly? Li Feng turned his head and looked at Mordu. Although Mordu's eyes were dissatisfied with the priest's words, he didn't want to worry about Li Feng and Kai's nostalgia. He ignored Li Feng's eyes and warned the priest with his eyes, "No next time, otherwise you want you to look good." Single quote dot. Shrugging his shoulders, Li Feng put down his long sword and said to Kai, "Want me to apologize to this blind man? Unless you teach me swordsmanship, I will use swordsmanship to defeat Beeman and apologize like this blind man someday." Beeman looked at Li Feng speechlessly. "What does it have to do with me? It's impossible for a guy like you to beat me in this life. I don't want to apologize and just say it, pulling the flag of defeating me." Kai knows that Li Feng joined the team under the guise of learning swordsmanship. Seeing that Li Feng is still thinking about learning swordsmanship, hesitation said, "You apologize first, and I will teach you basic swordsmanship, and even if you are not afraid of going to hell after death, don't you also fear that the Holy See wants you for threatening clergy?" Li Feng smiled and cast his eyes away from the priest. "It's impossible to apologize. It's a big deal if I don't learn swordsmanship. You are not the only one in the world who can teach me swordsmanship. What do I look like? even if I can see it clearly. He opened his mouth heresy and closed his mouth. Yellow-skinned monkey, I'm afraid it's a heresy lurking in the Holy See. Maybe it's a heresy possessed by the devil. I have a medal to reward me for piercing a demon lurking in the Holy See. The priest was cursed again by Li Feng, but he now sees that the most powerful demon and person on the scene are not pleasing to his eyes. The remaining Knight Ikai obviously does not want to participate in this meaningless confrontation. I got up and walked to the prison wagon, as if I was going to watch the night. Looking at Li Feng with a sharp look, the priest said to Kai, "You have to work hard at night to watch these two people of unknown origin. Don't let them let go of the Dark Witch." After finishing speaking, the priest sat back on the ground, looking like he closed his eyes and rested his mind, and spent the night after he was refreshed. Mordu looked at Li Feng suspiciously. He had a lot of questions and wanted answers, but looking at the appearance of a priest who was obedient to Li Feng, he felt that it was not the time to answer doubts. While being vigilant, he crossed his legs into shallow meditation. Rejuvenate. Seeing that everyone was resting, Li Feng fiddled with the fire and said to Kai beside him, "Little guy, how about teaching me swordsmanship? I don't need you to teach any secret skills, as long as the basic swordsmanship is enough." Kai didn't understand why Li Feng was so persistent in swordsmanship. He glanced at Mordu subconsciously and said, "Why don't you learn from Mr. Mordu? I can feel that Mr. Mordu is very strong. That guy is strong, but he is better at sticks and whips. Although he can do it with swordsmanship, but..." Li Feng touched his cheek, recalling the scene of being run over by a baseball and jumping up and down like a monkey, and muttered, "But I don't want to face baseball anymore. Ask him to teach me swordsmanship. I can think that this guy will definitely do it. The training method of hitting a baseball at me and letting me split the baseball with a knife." "Just preach." Li Feng, who felt a little cold, tightened his collar and rubbed his hands to warm him. "Be straightforward, don't chirp like a woman, give a nice talk like a man. Maiden, everyone else wears long sleeves and cloaks. Just me in a thin sleeveless shirt. I don't give me a piece of clothing during the day. At least I can keep warm when I move my hands and feet, but I don't give me a blanket or anything at night. Do you want to freeze me to death? Or do you think I'm not afraid of cold when you see Mordu's cold? The problem is that I don't have the magic power to resist the cold." Kai thought for a while, picked up 2 branches from the ground, handed one of them to Li Feng, and said, "Well, I will teach you the most basic swordsmanship, starting with holding a sword." For a long time, Li Feng, who was a little confused, realized that there is so much attention to holding a sword. What is the difference between one-handed and two-handed holding a sword? How to prevent the sword from being released when holding the sword with one hand, or to injure himself? How to hold the sword to make the sword more flexible and so on, he has never thought about or understood this. Until the second half of the night, when the priest got up and prepared to change shifts with Ikai, Kai breathed out and said that he had been taught this today and he was going to rest. Just as Kai closed his eyes and made a slight snoring sound, Mordu on the side suddenly opened his eyes to look at the prison car, turned his head and said to Li Feng, "Now everyone is sleeping, and we are far away and can't hear us talking. Tell me honestly before you, and what did the weird girl say?" Li Feng glanced at Kai. "Close your eyes and sleep. Just like you, guarding us." Turning his head and looking at Anna, making sure that the other party's line of sight could not see him, Li Feng snapped his fingers lightly, wrapping Mordu and himself into the mirror space. That little girl is indeed a devil, but the devil did not kill the little girl's soul, but uses the same body as the little girl. Mordu was stunned, and suddenly said, "The devil is wrapping the little girl's soul as clothes, so I think the little girl's spirit body is a little weird." After thinking about it, Mordu was going to open the portal to leave the mirror space. Since it is certain that the other party is the devil, what else is there to say? Directly use the method of striking the spirit body to punch the devil out of the little girl's body. The rest is nothing more than deploy a mirrored space to prevent the devil from escaping, so that you can kill the devil calmly. Finally found a devil who was willing to teach himself dark spells. Li Feng didn't want to waste this rare opportunity, and he hurriedly grabbed Mordu and said, "I understand you want to kill the devil's heart, but please think about our location near the small town. What have you heard?" Mordu seemed a little impatient. His mind only wanted to kill the devil, so as to avenge the apprentice who was killed by the devil. How could he recall what he had heard near the town? Li Feng holding Mordu's side and faintly said, it's refreshing for you to kill the devil, but how are you going to solve this world's plague? Or when we say that we will leave on our own, regardless of the life and death of people in this world. Did they die in the plague? Mordu wanted to refute the collection of essays by liming and using medications, and then he thought that this was a medieval period with worrisome sanitary conditions, and the plague was caused by the devil. Only extraordinary medicines can restrain such plagues. Ordinary medicines can only cure the symptoms. But is extraordinary medicine so easy to configure and develop? It is estimated that after the successful development of extraordinary drugs, apart from the big shot squatting on the throne of power can be used at will, ordinary people can't afford it. Then who will be the people who have been killed by the plague? At least Mordu felt that his conscience would be overwhelmed. After thinking for a while, Mordu took a deep breath, pressed his restless heart, and said, "What do you think?" Li Feng spread his hands and said, "Since the Beeman and the group know that the plague is caused by this guy, they are still thinking about sending this guy to the Sphoric monastery. It can be seen that there are ways to control the plague in the monastery. We don't have to worry about anything. Just follow along to Esfraco to prevent the devil from escaping." Mordu felt a little unhappy with Li Feng's suggestion. Since he knew where there is a cure for the plague, it's okay to kill the devil and find a cure. What if something accident happens during the escort and the devil runs away? Manage. You should know that the devil is a cunning creature, and once you find something wrong, you are most likely to find an opportunity to flee. As for the people of Beeman who would prevent themselves from killing the devil, Mordu said that he really didn't like the combat power of these ordinary people. The big deal is to use the mirror space to imprison them directly, and wait until he kills the devil before letting them out. Regarding this, Li Feng had a headache. Although he also wanted to kill the devil, it was after he drew out all the techniques. It's all right now. How much brain cell complement does Mordu think about it? Li Feng, with his brain running fast, scratched his head and said, "But I heard that the way to eliminate the plague in Sphoric Monastery is to use a special ritual. This ritual not only eliminates the devil, but also eliminates the plague at the same time." Quote, what if this ritual needs the devil to complete? It turns out that you are very happy to kill the devil, but what should you do if the ritual can't be held? This kind of special ritual of Otherworld, not to mention I don't understand it, Ancient One will be stunned for a while. Unless Ancient One has studied the ritual carefully, I will figure out whether it can kill the devil first. After all, there is a world. A rule of the world. Mordu's heart to kill the devil was finally persuaded by Li Feng, but he asked Li Feng about vomiting blood. "How do you know this?" "That devil told you." "The devil is so stupid that he will tell you all about Lao Di." "Or you what invisible deal has been made with the devil?" "I can warn you that the devil is never believable, and there is no truth in their mouths." "You don't care how I know these things." Li Feng, who felt an inexplicable arrow in his knee, was almost frightened by the speculation in Mordu's mouth. "I have a deal with the devil, so you guessed it." "Don't worry about how I know it, this is my little secret," waved his hand, and Li Feng said helplessly, "I will talk to Ancient One when I return to Kamatage. As to whether Ancient One will tell you the truth, you ask Ancient One to go." After speaking, Li Feng took advantage of no one's attention to put away the mirror space. When the two entered the mirror space, the devil had already sensed the spell fluctuations caused by Li Feng's spells. He didn't know what Li Feng and Mordu were discussing when they entered the different space. He was a little worried that Li Feng would reveal his old dilemma to Mordu, which would cause damage to his plan. Influence. It just so happened that the devil heard that Ikai, who was the vigil, told the priest who came to change the vigil that he thought of his deceased daughter when he saw him. The devil saw from Ikai's eyes that the other party did not believe that he was a witch, but wanted to let him go. Thoughts. This makes the devil very upset. "I worked so hard to plan a good plan, why do you always want to let me go? I just want to hitchhiker in the prison car, do you want so many twists and turns?" In order for his plan to be carried out smoothly, plus Li Feng had demonstrated magic in front of him before, and Li Feng wanted to learn dark spells but did not practice immediately, the devil felt that he still had a chance to kill Kai forget, not only let Li Feng see the power of dark spells, deepen the opponent's idea of dark spells, causing Li Feng and Mordu to break, but also have the intention to show his own muscles to Li Feng and Mordu. By the way, it can be guaranteed. Perfect implementation of own plan. thinking of the devil pretending to be scared and shouting to Aikai, "Wait a minute, please don't go, don't let me and the priest be alone together." Looking at the poor Anna Chuchu, Aikai, who had already moved his compassion, walked into the devil and said, "Don't worry, I won't go far." Before I finished speaking, the devil grabbed Aikai's hand and moved towards him. Seeing this, the priest on the side hurried forward and wanted to help. As a result, this happened to be caught in the devil's trap. When the priest approached the prison car, the devil pulled down the key and the cross hanging on the priest's neck, stabbed the priest with the cross and quickly opened the prison car and ran away. As soon as Li Feng and Mordu came out of the mirrored space, they heard roars shout from the direction of the prison car, and they noticed the faint spell fluctuations in the air. Mordu was afraid that the devil would take the opportunity to escape, so he drew out the magic weapon and chased him quickly. And Li Feng just pretended. He didn't believe that the devil would take the opportunity to leave, and at the same time he recalled that there was indeed such a section in the plot. Aikai, who wanted to let go of the devil, was hit by the devil's illusion, and finally hit Kai's cross sword and died. The operation of the devil made Kai, the young trainee knight, depressed for a while. Li Feng, who knew where the devil would hide for a long time, quickly found the devil. The devil looked at Li Feng and stood quietly beside him. With his mouth slightly raised, he used illusion techniques to influence Aikai, and he kept explaining the requirements of releasing illusion techniques. The key. Li Feng squinted at the devil, who felt his strength had been inexplicably lowered a few grades. He turned his head to look for the beeman and others who were holding torches in the distance. He kept these magic tricks in his heart. After a while, he was fascinated by the devil. When Aikai from east, west, north and south finally hit the cross sword in Kai's hand with his stomach, the devil heard Li Feng next to him say quietly, "What kind of illusion is you? How do you feel that there is a deceptive function?" The devil spread his hands and whispered, "Dark illusions originally have deceptive ability, which is much better than those purely deceptive illusions of white devil magician. The devil's dark spell is the best expression in the world. It makes Li Feng feel whether he will be lowered by the other party if he stays with the devil for a long time. This kind of deceptive spell is indeed superior to the dark spell, but there is a kind of magic that you say heals. Similar spells are also powerful dark spells. Don't you know that various energies have their own characteristics? I don't understand it. You are a foolish devil." There was disdain in Li Feng's eyes that the devil didn't care. If Li Feng only relied on a word to lead to the dark side, then the devil should think about whether Li Feng had other intentions. The devil, who squinted at Li Feng's expression, suddenly said, "By the way, I saw you and your companion enter a different space before. What are you discussing?" "Discuss how to kill you. Do you believe it?" Li Feng rolled his eyes and said, "I told Mordu why you made him feel weird." The corner of the devil's eyes twitched, and he said unbelievably, "You told him that I am the devil." "What's the hurry?" said Li Feng, who signaled the devil to calm down. "I haven't seen him come to kill you now. It means I have persuaded him." The devil rolled his eyes, feeling that a demon hunter could hold back the desire to hunt the devil. This was incredible. He whispered, "How did you persuade you?" "How to persuade?" Scratching his head, Li Feng said honestly, "Definitely tells the story according to the story you arranged. As long as you are sent to the Sphoric Abbey and a special ceremony is performed, this is about to be swept away. The plague of the world has been wiped out, and my companion dare not use the humans of the world as a bet. He can only accept the suggestion to send you to the monastery. At least before entering the monastery, he will not kill you. Don't play dead hands. That is, if I can't kill me, I'll beat myself to death. Fortunately, I was hiding in Anna's body and beaten up. It was a trivial matter to me. It's just that the devil is naturally suspicious." The devil recalled the flaws in Li Feng's words in his mind to determine whether Li Feng was telling the truth, while looking at Kai, who was frightened and panicked because he killed Aikai by mistake, summoned Beeman aloud. When the devil saw Beeman and the others approaching, he smiled and said, "Well, today's conversation is over, I should be on the stage to perform." After speaking, the devil quietly walked to a corner near Aikai and squatted down, pretending to be harmless to humans and animals like a frightened little white rabbit. The devil's face changed so fast that Li Feng, who looked at him, was stunned and his heart straightened. Boasting the devil. Talent, with your fast-changing expression and innocent little eyes, Hollywood definitely has a place for you. Li Feng, hiding in the dark, quietly watched the devil perform a bitter drama in which he had to flee for fear of being abused by the priest. When the devil was taken away by Beeman, Li Feng chirped and said to his back, "I think Oscar owes him a trophy, you say Mordor." Behind Li Feng, Mordor walked out of the darkness silently. If the devil enters Hollywood, those human actors will have no food, and those who make special skills will also have no food. After all, the devil can bring its own sound and light effects. The devil does not understand the characteristics of Kamataj's spells, so before Li Feng used the mirror space, the devil was unaware of it. Now that the more mature Mordu, who uses the spells, is hidden behind the devil is still unaware. Realizing that Mordu had actually found the devil early in the morning, it was only because of Li Feng's conversation with the devil that he did not show up in time. Mordu stared at Li Feng, his eyes full of charm of, "Give me a reasonable explanation." Li Feng shrugged and said relaxedly, "That guy wants to teach me spells and lure me to fall." Mordu was not a rookie magician. Before watching the magic spell cast and explained by the devil, Mordu knew at a glance that it was not a magic spell in the devil's mouth at all. "The devil wants to teach you temptation spells." Li Feng nodded with a bit of bitterness at the corner of his mouth, and walked to Beeman and the others. Yes, his old bottom is about to be known by Mordu. Seeing Li Feng nod his head with his back to him, Mordu felt his mind was a little down. He knew that illusion had no mana attributes, and it was a general skill of magicians, but seduction spells were obviously not. Only the use of dark energy can achieve the perfect casting effect. Since the devil taught Li Feng such spells, and Li Feng obviously kept the spell requirements in mind, it was enough to show that Li Feng was using dark energy. A magician who uses dark energy actually appeared in Kamataj, but Ancient One did not find or stop it. This is what Mordor could not understand. Li Feng, who was walking in the front, carefully prepared spells to prevent Mordor from violating and hurting people, and said helplessly, "You were right, the mana I use is inherently biased towards the dark side, so what I am really good at in the future. It is a dark spell." Li Feng didn't want to hide the matter about mana attributes, because it was unnecessary. In the future, he will be involved in Shield in order to collect infinite gems. As soon as his spells are used, Kamataj's magician will definitely know, unless Li Feng is only an obscure little magician forever, but is that possible? How to use infinite gems without power? It's just that he didn't expect that just a few days after he came to Otherworld, he was discovered by Mordu about the mana attributes. Originally, Li Feng wanted to at least wait for Mordu's opponent to confess, so that even if Mordu wanted to kill him, he would have the power to resist. Mordu, who followed Li Feng, touched the magic weapon. Although he couldn't hear the joy or anger in his tone, Li Feng could still feel that Mordu was desperately suppressing anger in his heart. Can't you use other energy to become a magician? The natural energy is biased towards darkness, so can you only choose dark spells? Li Feng seems to be aware of Ancient One's purpose for Mordu to travel to Otherworld with him. Compared to Mordu's rigid mind and radical personality 10 years later, although Mordu now also does not accept dark energy, he did not deal with him on the spot. Does this mean that the other party's prejudice against energy can still be changed? Thinking of this, Li Feng's mouth twitched. "I said, Master Ancient One, why don't I just live in Taj Kama for nothing? Do you want me to become Mordor's life mentor? You can't tell me in advance. After a while, I might as well apply for a PhD in psychology or something for further study. Does anyone who uses dark energy must be evil?" Hearing Li Feng's excuse, Mordu just wanted to let Li Feng know who to listen to with the short stick in his hand, and resisting the urge to beat Li Feng, Mordu told Li Feng about the consequences of using dark energy. Dark energy is inherently corrosive. As long as you have been in contact with dark energy, they will corrode your soul from the inside out, until it drags your soul into the abyss. Li Feng said indifferently, "You are staring at the abyss, and the abyss is staring at you. I understand, but the question is, am I careful enough? I didn't watch the illusion that the devil taught me before. Temptation, I just keep in mind, didn't I learn on the spot in my heart? I just want to go back and sort out the spell materials and learn how to resist the corrosiveness of darkness. Mordor is a bit iron and iron. How many magicians with profound mana feel that he has been prepared to study the dark energy? The result? All of them fell into the abyss, facing the dark energy, only to ignore them as safe. Li Feng, energy has no good and evil. The evil is always the human heart. And how do you know that people who use dark energy will degenerate? By experience. Whose experience? Those pioneers who have fallen into the abyss. At least they have proved them. The methods I use can't resist the darkness, but what about the future? Who knows it clearly? Maybe I will walk out a path to resist the corrosion of dark energy. Knowing that there are countless worlds behind me, I think I can always find a way. Li Feng turned his head to look at Mordu, and said quietly, the Holy See in your impression should be a guide for good, but in this world do you think the Holy See is righteous? Look at the churches in our world, and now, what are the people of the Holy See doing when the plague is rampant? They are summoning troops to expedition, slaughtering all those who do not believe in God, and seeing this as saving the world. Look at how the priest treats you with an attitude. If you don't do anything in this world, he opens his mouth to call you a heresy and shuts his mouth to call you a bilk mn. Can such a person be called a priest? Mordor agreed with this point. After all, how he said he had resisted many foreign invaders in his own world, not to mention that his whole body exudes a holy brilliance. What a heresy is called roar. Li Feng, if you think that such a person who likes to abuse prisoners is also an upright and kind priest, well, I admit that I use dark energy to be a demon. Li Feng pointed to Beeman and others in the distance. You are looking at who is really saving the world and saving the plague. According to the rules of the Holy See, Beeman and Fersen were originally traitors who were sent to the gallows, but the two left the army because they were dissatisfied with their boss's order to slaughter women and elderly people. This was the charge of deserter by the Holy See. Do you think only Beeman and Fersen were dissatisfied with the Crusades' brutality? Save it, but the rest of the people were afraid of being ordered to hang by the Holy See and the whole family did not dare to resist. Don't talk about this age. Even in our age, if your boss orders you to slaughter unarmed women and old people, will you do it? It's strange not to be sprayed to death by humanitarians. After talking about Beeman and Fersen, I was talking about Ikai, who had just died. He obeyed the monk's instructions because of his dissatisfaction. In the eyes of the priest, he was also a heresy, as well as a guide, a liar condemned by the Holy See, and the rest K as a rookie with a simple mind. Such a group of deserters, heretics, liars, and rookies are saving the plague in the eyes of the Holy See. Isn't it that a team that accidentally escorts the witch is not annihilated? Don't tell me you really believe in the silly bishop that the Holy See has no troops. Beeman left from the front line of the battlefield, and he can walk here in a month. You can send someone on the battlefield for a month and a half. Complete the mission of escorting the witch. I guess the Holy See did not regard this mission as saving the world. Perhaps in their opinion, killing all the women and children who do not believe in God is saving the world. Do you think the Holy See can represent justice or them? Li Feng Bala talked a lot, making Mordu a little confused. For a long time, Mordu retorted, but with the rise of science, isn't the church gradually changing itself? The corner of Li Feng's mouth raised, and said sarcastically, yes, the Holy See has made changes. Then you tell me, how did Copernicus, Bruno, Kepler, Galileo and others who dedicated their lives to science died? They are like pioneers who resist the corrosion of dark energy. They know that the church will refute and burn them to death, but they are still studying their own doctrines. Now look, who is still saying that their research has failed? Speaking of this, Li Feng said quietly, perhaps among those dark magicians hunted by you, some people have worked out how to resist the corrosion of dark energy, but you stubbornly believe that dark energy is irresistible and kill them. The method that led to resistance to the corrosion of dark energy was buried. Mordor felt that he was laughed at by Li Feng's crooked ideas. According to you, am I not the Holy See of this era? Killing those magicians who have fallen into the dark is tantamount to making mistakes all the time. That's not enough, Li Feng said with a shrug. But before you kill those dark magicians, please check that those people are not guilty. Turning his head to look at Mordu, Li Feng said blankly, but you are right. You are like the Holy See of this era. As long as you think you are right, you will suppress all the resistance. Maybe after hundreds of years, future generations will judge you not only as a hero against foreign invaders, but also as a butcher. Li Feng concluded, I just want to tell you, don't use your current concepts and vision to judge a world, time will swell your face. Seeing that he was about to return to the team that escorted the devil, Mordu didn't want to be arguing with Li Feng, and he also needed to reflect on his own thoughts, but before that, Mordu severely warned, I will do what you use dark energy. Tell Ancient One, and at the same time, I will watch you firmly behind your back. Once you find signs of depravity, don't blame me for purifying you. To put it nicely, it's called purification, but it's actually killing me. Rolling his eyes, Li Feng waved his hand to Mordu behind him, and said, whatever you think, I know the characteristics of dark energy. I'm not 200% sure. I don't want to get dark energy. In the strange eyes of Beeman and the priest, when he returned to the team, Mordo sat silently by the fire. Before Mordor thought about what Li Feng said to him before, whether it was overtly or secretly, Li Feng compared him to the current Holy See, a conservative and not tolerant of refutation. At the same time, he also understands that Li Feng wants his thinking to advance with the times, and cannot judge the present by observing the untimely rules of the past. Just like the many changes that the Holy See will make in the future, Li Feng used the metaphor of the church to accuse him of the need to change some of his ideas, otherwise there will eventually be people like Beeman who resist the church, and then there will be countless Beeman who dare to resist the Holy See. People, in the end, the old church was crushed into slag under the wheel of history. Looking at Li Feng who was hitting Heish, Mordor thought silently, whether his mind should change, it is like becoming a dregs or rebirth of lust, is this what Li Feng wants to tell me? Is it so easy to change a person's mind? Not easy. Looking at Taj who installed Wi-Fi in the future, Ancient One has used actions to tell Mordu to keep pace with the times, and Mordu is still conservative and extreme in thinking. Definitely, the Mordu now is not the Mordu 10 years later, and many inherent ideas have not yet formed. What Li Feng has to do is not to put Mordu's thoughts into the mixer and smash it immediately after this conversation, but to make Mordu's mind a question, and then use this question as a fulcrum, slowly leveraging Mordu's extreme excitement. Idea. This time, Mordu did not turn his face on the spot and drew a short club to beat Li Feng. In Li Feng's mind, this was an opportunity, a chance to change Mordu's future betrayal of Taj. For a long time, Mordu suddenly thought that he was just reminding Li Feng to beware of the devil, and not to have a deal with the devil. How did his style of painting become Li Feng to educate himself? Which link is wrong? Turning his eyes to the devil who was detained in the prison again, Mordum stood up and squatted on the prison in silence. No matter Li Feng's idea was right or wrong, the devil was always a devil who liked to deceive people. He wanted to learn dark spells and some methods. He couldn't look at Li Feng. Learn spells from a devil. Without seeing the devil hiding in Anna's body, can he still kill Ikai after losing most of his power? Mordu felt that he still watched the devil himself. Even if Li Feng wanted to learn general dark spells, he had to learn it under his supervision. At the same time, he cut off Li Feng from contacting the devil's special spells, so as not to let the devil have a chance to kill Li Feng. Mordor's behavior of sitting on the top of the prison vehicle was not questioned by the priest and others. After all, Anna had escaped from the prison vehicle just now. If Mordor and others wanted to let go of the Dark Witch, it was the best opportunity just now, not with them. Search for the whereabouts of the witch together and take him back to the prison wagon. In the early morning, after the corpse of Ikai was buried hastily, the group moved on. Fortunately for the death of Ikai, there were more horses in the team, which made Li Feng very happy, but Li Feng was happy too early. He forgot that he could not ride a horse. In the end, it was Fersen who couldn't stand to speak and guide a few horse riding tips, so that Li Feng knew how to control the horse under him, and trot to follow the team. To be honest, if Li Feng has enough physical fitness, he would rather follow the team in a trot, because riding a horse is too cold for him who only wears a sleeveless shirt. It's not as good as running to exercise your body and warm yourself up. Li Feng glanced at Mordu who was squatting on the prison wagon, and said in his heart, "You don't need to ride a horse to break the skin of the inner thigh, you can also resist the cold with your force, and finally you can relax on the top of the prison car and appreciate that there is no car. Exhaust polluted environment, are you here to escort the devil or on vacation? If you are on vacation, can you please look at me with a dead man face while the devil and I are learning spells at night? Down, how lethal is your black face?" 2 days later, the team was led by the guide Hagmar to the edge of a cliff. Obviously, the team wanted to reach the other side of the cliff. Apart from a detour, the only way to go was to connect to the other side of the cliff by a rotten wooden bridge. Li Feng probed his eyes at the bottomless cliff and silently retreated to the side. Although Li Feng knows that in the movie, this dangerous bridge will not formally wave goodbye to dropping off the cliff until everyone has passed through, but now there are two more, Li Feng and Mordu. Who knows that the dangerous bridge will meet after adding the weight of the two? I won't say goodbye to everyone in advance. Li Feng asked Mordu with his eyes. Don't say that such a bridge allows prison cars to pass, and people panic when they walk up. Should we open a portal to the opposite side? Mordu looked at the bottom of the cliff and was still wondering whether to expose the magician's identity. When opening the portal, Beeman slowly walked up the boardwalk with his horse, showing a great performance of using his own life to find the way for everyone. Those present were stunned, and Fersen prayed in his heart that his old friend could walk to the other side safely. Until Beeman walked safely to the other side and determined that the boardwalk was still safe for the time being, the priest and Fersen breathed a sigh of relief. Mordu got off the prison wagon and walked to Li Feng, signaling not to reveal his magician identity for the time being. He couldn't bear the fact that the priest would call him Roar when he opened his mouth and shut his mouth. Under Beeman's command, Beeman and Kayla slowly walked up the concave-shaped wooden bridge with the prisoner vehicle holding the devil. A rope that prevents the prisoner vehicle from falling off the cliff was connected to the rear of the prisoner vehicle and was dragged by the crowd. At the same time, this rope can also slow the speed of the prisoner car when it advances, in case the speed of the prisoner car is too fast and cause the plank bridge to break. The prison car had just advanced a few steps, because the weight of the prison car made the originally concave plank bridge fall further, resulting in the need for greater force to pull the rope. The priest obviously did not have such a great strength, and shouted when his hands were cut by the rope. I can't do it anymore, while letting go of the rope in his hand. The priest's letting go led to a sudden increase in the strength of the rope lying flat in Li Feng's hands. Li Feng couldn't grasp it for a while and let go of the rope. Fortunately, the wooden plank bridge seemed to be a dangerous bridge, but when the speed of the prison vehicle was out of control, it still persisted stubbornly and did not collapse in advance. Li Feng noticed that Beeman and Kai both fell and almost fell off the cliff after the prison wagon lost control. Fortunately, the two caught the aging rope on the wooden bridge in time, and they volleyed on the cliff. Beeman, a knight with many battles, could climb the boardwalk by himself, but Kay would not do it. If the devil hadn't grabbed Kay with one hand, this guy would have to fall to death. Li Feng cracked his lips. He guessed that the devil deliberately grabbed Kai with one hand so that everyone believed that he was a witch. After all, how could it be possible for a little girl to move an adult with one hand? Li Feng muttered. It is estimated that the devil does not want to let him go, and the one on the right who wants to let him leave, so that he is a witch, so that everyone can send him to the Sphoric Abbey with peace of mind. Mordu glanced at the prison car in the middle of the boardwalk, walked to the side of Li Feng and whispered, "What are you talking about?" Li Feng shrugged his shoulders, shook his head and said, "It's nothing, just sigh that the devil is so comfortable. You don't have to walk by yourself to cross a dangerous bridge. Stay in the prison car while watching Beeman sweating while admiring the scenery on the cliff." Mordu rolled his eyes at Li Feng and said angrily, "If you like it, how about I put you in a prison car and parade in Kathmandu someday?" Looking at the devil, Mordu squinted his eyes and said, "After 2 days of observation, I feel that apart from caring about whether or not we can reach Esfraco, that guy doesn't care about everything else, including knowing that we are magician, but a little bit. Don't worry about us ruining his plan. Does the devil think that our own strength will dominate us?" Li Feng looked at Mordu with a smile, but a smile. He didn't believe that Mordu really didn't think of the reason. Mordu mentioned this question just to tell Li Feng that the devil is not credible. Even if the two people signed a cooperation contract, it's not credible. Besides, Li Feng haven't signed a contract yet. Doesn't the devil worry that Li Feng and Mordu have ruined his plan? Worry, but the devil knows it's useless to worry. After all, he is a devil, born on the opposite side of Mordor. The devil clearly knows that the reason why the two parties have not yet started fighting is because neither Li Feng nor himself saw the goods they wanted, the Solomon spell book. Before the spell book appeared, the devil felt that such a battle was meaningless, and he could not enter the Sphoric monastery without revealing his identity. Li Feng wanted to take a few more spells. At the same time, one person and one devil also know that once they enter Esfraco, the two parties will immediately tear their skins, and truly rely on their own strength to fight with real swords and guns. Patting Mordu on the shoulder, Li Feng smiled and said, I know what you are worried about, but I never underestimate the strength of the devil, and haven't you noticed it? That guy's strength has been inexplicably reduced since the last time he ran away. I guess what's hiding in Anna's body is no longer the body but just a projection. I think a projection of the devil is just a slaughter for you. Mordu smiled slightly, and said, the purpose of the devil is to destroy the spell book that restrains him. It is indeed the best choice to let a projection complete the task. After the spell book is destroyed, his body descends on the earth, and no one takes him. There is no way, if you fail, you will lurch and look for the next opportunity to destroy the spell book. At this time, the prison car stopped steadily in the middle of the boardwalk, and Beeman shouted to the priests, tie the rope to the horse, and you and the horse will go forward in the prison car. There are 2 more people pulling the prison car than in the original book. There is no scene of the plank bridge collapsing in the plot. However, Li Feng still cut the rope that fixed the plank bridge. After all, the bridge is about to fall apart. The boardwalk, only the bridge collapsed and people fell off the cliff for a day. After passing the plank bridge, everyone slumped on the ground. Beeman and the others were exhausted and slumped on the ground. Li Feng was scared when he stepped on a plank when he crossed the plank bridge. Ma Dan, I knew it. It's so exciting to cross the bridge, so I hid in the distance under the excuse of shit, and when Beeman and others crossed the bridge, I opened a portal and came directly. After a while, Fersen looked at the forest with weird dead trees and gusts of wind, and asked, where is this? The guide Hagma panted and replied, Wormwood Forest. After that, Hagrid glanced at the devil vaguely. He had seen the scene where the devil rescued Kai with one hand, which convinced him that the priest said that Anna was a witch. At the same time, Hagrid was thinking about finding a chance to kill the witch. Why? He felt that the life and death crisis he experienced was caused by this witch. As long as the witch is killed, the crisis will end naturally. Is this a reason? Chapter 31. In the night a few days later, the Wormwood Forest was filled with thick fog that could not be seen. Everyone was exhausted in the windy dead woods, and Hagman, who wanted to kill the witch, was a little excited and couldn't help quarreling with Fossen, which made Beeman had to order a rest in place. Wait for the fog to dissipate and ease everyone's nervousness. Feeling a little tired, Li Feng didn't climb into the prison car and learn spells from the devil as usual. This made Hagma not easy. If Li Feng and Mordu had not rested in the prison car every night, he would have found a chance to kill the witch. It was hard to hope that Li Feng and Morduo were both warming up the fire, looking like they were going to spend the night by the fire tonight. How could Hagma give up this hard-won opportunity? In the middle of the night, when everyone was asleep, Hagma quietly took the crossbow and wanted to shoot the witch, but Hagma was discovered by Beeman, who was awakened by a nightmare as soon as Hagma approached the prison wagon. Although Beeman believed that the girl in the prison was a witch, he still wanted to send her to Sphora to be tried. One wanted to kill the witch, the other wanted to protect, and the quarrel between the two awakened Li Feng, who was still in his dream. Breathing and rubbing the corner of his eyes, Li Feng suddenly looked in the direction of the devil with Mordu, who had just been awakened. Mordu asked in a low voice, "Did you feel it?" Li Feng nodded and said, "It's the spell fluctuation caused by the devil's spell. Although the spell fluctuation is very weak, after several days of learning, I can detect that it is a suspected summoning spell. Should I remind everyone to be careful?" Mordu thought for a while, and shouted loudly as he got up and walked to the prison car, "Be careful, there is a beast nearby." After that, Mordor jumped onto the prison wagon and said viciously to the devil, "What the hell are you doing? Can't you let me sleep well?" The devil felt that he was wronged. Originally, he just wanted to show some extraordinary power to let everyone know that he was a witch, and he could be sent to the Sphoric Abbey with peace of mind. As a result, he didn't know if Hagma was nervous or something. Thinking of killing him. Was it easy for me to be a devil? Before Ikai thought I was not like a witch, there was a sign of letting me go, so I killed him. Now Hagma thinks I am a witch, so he is here to kill me. What's wrong with you humans? I just want to go to Sphra, what's the matter? I don't know if I'm just duplication, I don't have much power at all. Summoning a pack of wolves to kill Hagmar consumes a lot of mana. Also, you can kill them for a while. Rolling his innocent eyes, the devil raised his head and glanced at the Buddha-like Mordor, curled his lips and said, "You are smart, knowing that the wolves will deliberately avoid the prison car, and simply hide in the prison car to watch the man-wolf fight. The warning that Mordu reminded made Beeman prick up his ears to listen to the wolf howling from a distance. He faintly felt that he was surrounded by wolves. Isn't this a joke? Wolves are smart social creatures. They dare to attack when they see so many people. Either the wolves are starving, or the wolves have judged that they are not opponents of the wolves. Suddenly, Beeman realized something and quickly walked to the prison car and looked at the witch. The witch used one hand to save people and proved to Beeman that he possessed extraordinary powers. Beeman looked at the witch with sneers and sarcasm on his face, and realized that the wolves surrounding him, besides the two possibilities previously thought, there are also wolves. It is possible that the witch summoned. Realizing that the wolves were summoned by the witch, Beeman was relieved. He knew that beast was the most brutal during the estrus period, the childbearing period, and the hungry period. Now that it is not a pack of wolves that are starving or able to swallow the escort team, Beeman feels that he still has the ability to kill this pack of wolves that have been forced to convene. Mordu was careful to perceive the wolves nearby, and he was also relieved. He could feel that the number of wolves surrounding him was actually not many, but he still drew out the short stick, knocked on the prison car and said, "Let the wolves leave, otherwise let you taste the taste of magical implements." The devil subconsciously looked at the short stick in Mordu's hand, a magic weapon. Spreading out his hands, the devil opened his innocent eyes and said, "But all my mana is used to summon wolves. Now I can't disperse them. Besides, my mana is only enough to summon such a few wolves. You can kill with your hands. Light." The devil looked at Li Feng, who was wearing only a sleeveless shirt, and said with a smile, "I am kindly giving my student a wolf fur coat. Why don't you appreciate it? Even if my student dislikes the stench of the wolf fur coat, there are so many wolves. Meat can always improve your food, right? Look at you eating black bread that is as hard as a rock every day. I feel distressed." Li Feng didn't even bother to pay attention to how the devil looked at him. His attention was all on the wolf that was grinning at him in front of him. The wolf rushed towards Li Feng. After Li Feng calmly avoided the wolf's claws, he slashed the waist of the wolf with a sharp magic knife. The wolf was instantly split into two sections by Li Feng, and the intestines and other internal organs flowed out. Land. After a while, the wolves that had been summoned by the devil lay on the ground in all directions, but before Beeman sighed, everyone vaguely heard the wolves howling in the distance. Beeman knew it as soon as he heard the sound. There were more wolves this time, and they hurriedly let everyone escape on horseback. On the way to escape, Mordu looked at the devil whose mouth was twitching. The devil spread his hands and said with his eyes, "These wolves behind were really not summoned by me. It is probably caused by the bloody smell caused by you killing the wolves. Blame me." Mordu glanced at the devil with suspicion, and turned to look at the wolves hanging behind the team and chasing after him. "I saw a few wolves suddenly escaped from the pack, took a shortcut and ran to a small slope. When Hagma rode across the hillside, he rushed out and pushed Hagma off his horse. The nearby wolves swarmed up and faced the howling sea. Gemma bit through. Li Feng didn't notice anything while the wolves were biting Hagma, but Mordu, who was observing the surroundings on the prison cart, felt that Hagma's spirit body had weird fluctuations in an instant. Afterwards, Hagrid was as powerful as a stimulant. He tore down the wolf that was biting his shoulder and drew a dagger to kill it. At this time, Beeman, who was running at the forefront of the team, also found that Hagma was surrounded by wolves. He was making the final resistance. Beeman did not want to draw out the cross sword and rush into the wolves to rescue Hagma. Fersen glanced at the wolves. He seemed to see panic in the eyes of the wolves. He felt that he was waiting for people to kill too many wolves before, but none of them died in the team, so the wolves realized that he was this side as a hard bone. Thinking of this, Fersen drew a cross sword and rushed towards the pack. Before Fersen swung his sword to kill, the wolves seemed to be frightened and turned and fled. Li Fengjiao was surprised when he saw that Hagma was not dismembered by the wolves, but he lost too much blood and was in a coma. He mumbled, "Is this my butterfly fanning its wings, which caused the plot to change? But I don't remember that I instigated it. Wings." After thinking about it, Li Feng left Hagma behind. "If you don't die, you don't die. Why am I struggling with this?" Beeman carried the dying Hagma back to the prison wagon, and after a brief dressing, he ordered the priest to take care of the semi-comatose Hagma, turned on his horse, and urged everyone to leave. Beeman knows that wolves are very vengeful animals. Although the wolves seemed to have left, they will return again. Especially Beeman is sure that these wolves were summoned by witches. Who knows whether the witches will let them go. The wolves were lying in wait in front of the team. In order to reduce casualties, Beeman felt that his party still took advantage of the dense fog to dissipate and ran out of the Wormwood Forest overnight to be safe. The sky gradually cleared, and the trees passing by the team gradually began to sparse, all of which indicated that everyone was about to step out of the insect wood forest. Beeman, who was sure that the wolves would not be chasing after him, couldn't help but feel the anger in his heart, holding a crossbow and shooting the witch. Li Feng raised his head and looked into the distance. He had already faintly seen Sphoric Monastery. In the past few days, Li Feng has been eating poorly, sleeping, and who is uneasy, especially now that the sky is still starting to rain. Li Feng, who has been riding a horse for half a night, is trembling with cold, and is about to get it now. The Solomon spellbook returned to the Marvel world. He really didn't want to waste time. Before Beeman pointed at the witch with a crossbow, Li Feng pointed to the distant mountain and said, "Look, Sphoric Monastery." Beeman was stunned, turned his head to look in the direction that Li Feng was pointing, glanced at the witch in disgust, then rolled over and rode on his white horse. Knowing that there will be a battle waiting for him, Li Feng, riding a horse to move his hands and feet. Although I am only a soy sauce player in the waiting battle, even if I fight soy sauce, I have to perform well. I should be familiar with magician battles. The prison car drove slowly towards Sphoric. Mordu on the top of the prison car glanced at Hagma vaguely, his mouth raised slightly, and he said with disdain, "Although I don't know what's going on with you, your spirit is here. Slowly dissipating. This is only a dead man phenomenon, so I have reason to suspect that you were possessed by the devil when you were bitten by a pack of wolves." After a long time, the group finally reached their destination. Li Feng and Mordu, who walked to the gate of Sphoric Monastery, looked at each other. Ordinary people couldn't see the hidden magic patterns on the gate and the wall, but they could see clearly. It's just that Li Feng just glanced at it to show that he didn't understand it, while Mordu was thinking and watching with relish. Li Feng pushed Mordu and asked in a low voice, "What tricks do you see?" Mordu turned to look at the devil and Beeman behind him, and said with a smile, "I know why the devil didn't come to Sphra by himself, because the defensive circle on the gate prevents the devil from entering the monastery. It's like a protection net made up of 3 holy places, blocking and intercepting all magical creatures in different spaces. It's just that the monastery has a single function and can only prevent the devil from entering, but once the devil enters the monastery, these magic circles will also loss of effect, like an airport security gate. As long as you find a way to carry dangerous goods through the security gate and board the plane, does this security gate still work? I'm just curious about the energy of these arrays. It doesn't seem like ordinary mana, as more like the power of faith." Li Feng is not at all curious about the power of faith to protect the energy source of the Sphoric Monastery. After all, this is the Middle Ages when the power of the church surpasses all kingdoms. What happened to the power of faith to protect the monastery by a dominant church? It's normal. Moreover, there is a real spell book in this monastery, and it is normal operation for the defense method to have mysterious side power. When Beeman knocked on the door and no one responded, Kay had to climb the wall and enter the monastery to open the door for everyone. As the convoy entered the monastery, except for what Li Feng had expected, the rest of the people were in the strangely huge monastery without even seeing them. Inside the prison, the devil admired the surrounding buildings with a smile, ignoring Li Feng, who was touching the long knife with his right hand. Mordu didn't know when to hold the short stick in his hand, ready to fight at any time. The movements of Li Feng and Mordu made Berman and Fersen feel the smell of gunpowder in the air. After looking at each other, they pulled out the cross sword, observing Li Feng and Mordu, while guarding the witch in the prison wagon. Soon, a group of people arrived at the gate of the church. Fersen hadn't tied the horse, and the priest beside him could not wait to rush into the church. Beeman ran into the church after the priest with some helplessness. For a while, in the small square at the entrance of the church, only Li Feng, Mordu, Fersen, who was always alert with the cross sword in both hands, and Kai with a blank face were left. Li Feng looked at Fersen, then at Mordu, drew out the magic long knife and pointed at the devil, and said to Fersen, "Honorable knight, can you point your sword at the devil in the cage? You always mean it. I am flustered." "Devil, don't the people of the Holy See say that he is a dark witch?" Furson frowned suspiciously and asked, "What did you say?" In the prison car, the devil wanted to wait for the priest to get Solomon's key, to show its prototype, but he didn't expect the student who had taught the dark spell for many days to reveal his identity. The devil vaguely cast his eyes on Hagmar sitting in the driver's seat of the prison car, and suddenly burst into laughter. With a gust of wind, the devil's fiery hands grasped the fence of the prison car, and wanted to melt the prison car in which he was being held. Over the past centuries, you hanged, burned, and crucified everyone who prevented you from accumulating wealth and power. We hell thank you for sending so many delicious souls, so that we have enough strength to break through the defenses of hell. Now, you do so welcome. Before the devil's words were finished, Li Feng's magic long knife suddenly rose into a raging flame, and while slashing at the devil, he said, "If you want to hit the ball, I don't know that I can go up and down hundreds of thousands in a minute. Income, I was ill and chatted with you here." Furson on the side was already stunned, and he subconsciously used a crossed sword to point at the witch who was about to come out of the prison car and had already shown some of the characteristics of the devil. Kay was not much better, carrying a crossed sword into the church, ready to call Beeman out to help out. Furson believes he has been fighting for many years and has been well informed, but he has never seen such a rare species as the devil. Furson glanced at Li Feng, who was slashing the devil with a long knife, and muttered in a low voice, "Now I have a story to tell when I return to my hometown. It's a story I have personally experienced." Furson turned to look at Mordu again, and said, "The long knife in your partner's hand looks like magic or something. What about you? What kind of profession? Monk? Do you punch the devil in the face with your fist?" Mordu rolled Furson from the corner of his eye, activated the baton-style magical weapon in his hand, and hit Hagma, who was quietly lying in the driver's seat of the prisoner, like a whip. Although Furson believed that Anna was the devil, he did not understand and wanted to stop Mordu from attacking the innocent Hagma. He just didn't wait for Furson to speak. Hagma was completely unlike the dexterous posture that humans should have turned over and escaped the magic weapon. He attacked and landed like a lizard, spitting out a forked tongue, cursing, "Demon hunter, I don't know that this flesh body is miserable enough, how can you bear to whip the corpse?" Yes, without Mordu's explanation, Furson also sees that Hagmar has been possessed by the devil, "But I am a knight, you let me chop people. Pick up again. Don't beep if you don't do well." Li Feng squinted at Hagma, and suddenly realized, "I said, how did those wolves bite you half to death and left? It turns out that the real Hagma was already belching, and you took the opportunity to occupy the magpie's nest." Mordu kept in mind that Li Feng said that Sephora could use special rituals to eliminate the plague in this world. After he forced out the prototype of Hagrid, he stopped shooting, but kept his eyes fixed on Hagrid to stay alert. Inwardly, Mordu regretted that he didn't bring all the equipment when he crossed. "I'm careless, this only possessed Hagrid. Ma's devil actually crawled out of hell, and his strength was even stronger than mine." After entering the church, Beeman and the priest found that the entire church had been infected with the plague and died. When the priest collapsed, he finally found a priest who was only half-side. Under the guidance of the half-side priest, Beeman found the goal of their trip, Solomon's key. Kai, who hurried into the church, pointed to the church door and said, quickly, "The dark witch has become a devil." Mordu and Li Feng are facing them. More than one devil. Beeman threw the Solomon spell book on the desk to the priest, and ran out of the church with a sword. The three Beemans just ran out of the church, and Mordu, who had been alerting the surroundings, instantly released the spells that had been prepared long ago, and wrapped everyone present and the devil into the mirrored space. Beeman and the others still didn't understand what was going on. Mordu rushed towards Hagrid with a short club shining with magic light, and at the same time ordered, "Debochak, proceed with the ceremony. Li Feng, you concentrate on dealing with the devil's duplication. Give me this guy who dared to leave hell on his own." The moment Hagma was wrapped in the mirror space, he knew that he was in trouble. This kind of alien space that could instantly cut off the connection with hell made him lose his mana backing, causing him to use a little mana to consume a little. This is different from what he had originally imagined. You see, this is a space spell. It's not popular in any way, right? I know the space spell of Lee Summit, that duplication with Beeman in the distance, but how can you also use space spells? This doesn't make sense. In the corner of the mirrored space, Furson originally wanted to help, only to see that the devil would dodge facing Li Fang's long knife, but facing Beiman, who was holding an ordinary weapon, this guy actually resisted directly. This scene made Furson know his own there is no other way to use the devil with weapons, so it's better to stand by the priest who turns the book to see how to destroy the devil. It took Li Fang for a long time to slash the devil with a knife, and it still scratched, which made him very upset. While slashing at the devil, he said to Beiman, "Look, I said that you should teach me swordsmanship. With swordsmanship like yours, this devil has long since been chopped into mashed meat and made into pie." Beiman used his long sword to restrict the movements of the devil so that the burning long knife in Li Fang's hand could slash the devil, while cursing, "Then why did you come to me to learn swordsmanship recently? I can drink a little wine and watch you slash the devil. Look at your smashed swordsmanship." The presbyopic grandmother who walks on crutches next door to Furson is more accurate than you. Devil, 2 elder brothers, now they are pinching, can you play quietly? After pushing the devil back again, Beiman said helplessly, "My weapon can't hurt the devil. Li Fang, can you do anything? Sprinkle the holy water on the sword, or..." Li Fang handed the magic long knife in his hand to Beiman, smiled and took out the magic playing card from his pocket, and said, "Use my knife." "As for me," Li Fang said with his index finger and middle finger each holding a playing card, "I still prefer magician's way of fighting." After speaking, Li Fang instantly flew the 2 playing cards in his hand towards the devil. Beiman glanced at the long knife in his hand that had gradually weakened but never extinguished, and then rushed towards the devil after saying, "Good knives." With Beiman with magic weapons and Li Fang, who constantly used playing cards to confuse the devil's face, the devil was wounded all over without dodge a few times, causing duplication to be unable to maintain and had to end with hatred. At this time, Li Fang had the intention to look at the defensive-oriented Mordor who was beaten by Hagrid and rashly counterattacked a few sticks. Hagrid noticed Li Fang when the duplication disappeared, and said gruffly, "Li Fang, my student, what a perfect body, I taught you so many spells, why didn't you practice any of them?" The devil's words provoked Beiman and others' defenses well. Except for the priest glanced at Li Fang and continued to lower his head and hold the cross to read the spell aloud, all 3 of them pointed their swords at Li Fang. In response, Li Fang pulled out a poker card from his pocket, looked at Beiman and said, "Man, you point me with my knife, you're not too particular about it." After speaking, Li Fang shot the poker card at Hagma and said, "You taught me a lot of spells, but the question is which of those spells is okay. Either it can tempt my soul, or I can practice it. Positioning me, do you teach me spells or call me, ready to contact me forcibly at any time?" Scratching his head, Li Fang looked down at his belly and said to Hagma, "Your body appears. This is my physical body that you want to capture, so that you can use all your power in this world at any time." The priest was the most helpless being present, because he found that he had chanted the spell for a long time and the devil hadn't reacted at all, which was obviously unreasonable. The devil expressed disdain for this. Holding the Book of Solomon like this is a spell that is effective when one individual recites a spell. Roar is more accurately called a divine spell. A book is like a telephone, a spell is like a phone number and a distress signal, faith is a phone line, and chanting a spell is like calling God. When God sees your phone number, he will understand how you want to ask for help, and transfer the corresponding energy along the phone line to the caller. Definitely, before you send a distress signal, you must first know what kind of help you want. Just like when you call 10086 and ask, "I want to check the phone bill in China Unicom's card," how do you ask the other party to answer? In addition to this, there is another problem, which is also the reason the devil expresses his disdain. Please check if the mobile phone has a signal before you make a call. The mirrored space of Mordu has cut off the connection between Hagrid and Hell. How can your god receive a call from a priest for help? Li Fang saw the priest's doubts and sneered, "Blind priest, don't you have a fake, do you show it to me?" The priest admitted that he was blind, and actually regarded the extremely dangerous devil as a slightly dangerous dark witch. Isn't this blindness? But when he handed the spell book to Li Fang, the priest still hesitated. After all, how do you think Li Fang who can shoot burning cards as a necromancer, heresy, etc.? In case Li Fang's purpose is the same as the devil, it is all for the ski of Solomon, what do you do if you come? Li Fang was not in a hurry. He saw that even though Mordu was not Hagmar's opponent, Hagma could not help him for a while, so Li Feng occasionally used playing cards to interfere with Hagrid's offensive and let him breathe. Said to Beeman, "For the sake of our happily hunting a devil duplication before, you won't step forward and help Mordu, so that the devil will be wiped out soon." Beeman glanced at Li Feng, then at Hagma, and thought for a while. Anyway, Li Feng is a human, probably, maybe a human. After all, I can't see the other party's disguise. Compared with the devil, human beings are not much evil even if they are evil. At most, the Holy See who rules mankind is replaced by Li Feng and Mordu. Anyway, it is so bad now, how can it be so bad? But demons are invasive alien species, which will destroy the living environment of human beings. People are all dead. What future is there to talk about? Thinking of this, Beeman used his eyes to signal Furson to protect the priest, and rushed towards Hagrid with a long knife. Not far away, a slightly embarrassed Mordor breathed a sigh of relief after Beeman joined, and couldn't help but shout to the priest, "Is your ritual ready? Why haven't you wiped out the devil?" Mordor's words made the priest gritted his teeth and made up his mind to give the Solomon spellbook in his hand to Li Feng. Without solving the devil, this Solomon key could fall into the hands of the devil. In contrast, it is still a heresy for humans. Li Feng is more cost-effective. In any case, Li Feng is also a human being. The big deal is that the Holy See sent troops to hunt down Li Feng and Mordu, but the priest still didn't believe that Li Feng and Mordu could turn the sky in front of the army. After receiving the spell book, Li Feng squinted his eyes carefully, and then Li Feng smiled bitterly and said, "I understand why the spell is invalid." After speaking, Li Feng returned the spell book to the priest, and while gently opening a matchbox file-size portal so that the spell book could contact God, he said, "Now, chant the spell to weaken the devil." The priest who received the spell book breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, the book was not lost. "Weakened, isn't it eliminated?" Although puzzled, the priest uttered the spell obediently after a grunt. Li Feng shrugged and explained, "If it is facing the devil's duplication, the spell can indeed eliminate the opponent, but now the devil itself appears, and this spell can only be weakened." Realizing that he had contacted Hagma in hell, he immediately left Mordor and Beeman behind, and rushed towards the priest after being attacked by the two. His body appears here, although the spell book can only weaken him, but his strength is suddenly weakened while he is still fighting. Solomon's key became Hagmar's top priority. As for Furson and Li Feng who want to grab the spellbook, Hagrid expressed disdain. An ordinary human, or an ordinary human who cannot hurt his weapon, would he care? There is also Li Feng. After these few days of teaching and Li Feng's questions, this guy is just a rookie on the magic road, and it is also not worth mentioning. It's just that the rookie magician, who is not worth mentioning in Hegma's eyes, faced the Hegma who was about to pounce on her. The corners of her mouth raised slightly and said, "The spells that I prepared when I opened the portal were already waiting for the hunger. Thirsty and impatient, still want my body. You stupid devil." As soon as Li Feng's words fell, he raised his hand and shot a group of suspected water-like substance on Hagma's face while avoiding Hagma's claws sideways. The distance between Hagrid and Li Feng was too close, and there was no possibility of missed shots. After the water-like substance was smeared with Hagrid's face, the other side seemed to be possessed by a snail, and every movement was slow-moving. The lens is the same. Li Feng, who kept his mana output, knelt on one knee, while stabilizing his mana so that the time slowed down and the spell continued, while shouting to Mordor and the priest, "Quickly complete the ritual, Mordor, you come to open a portal and control the devil's actions, special every time he moves, my mana is being consumed exponentially and I cannot maintain the stability of the portal." The priest also realized that the situation was in crisis, and kept accelerating his speech. Mordu glanced at the portal that Li Feng released was about to dissipate. When he reached out and opened a portal, the magic weapon in his hand slammed into Hagrid's heart like a spear. Hagma was a little flustered in his heart, just a little bit, more because some couldn't believe his eyes, what he saw. While struggling to produce time spells, Hagrid looked at Li Feng greedily, and said, "Time spells. You know time spells, as well as the space spells before, so the more you look at the physical body, the more perfect it becomes. A world has a rule of the world, and the rule of this world is the holy water that can cause the most damage to the devil. Although Mordu's short stick is a magic weapon, it belongs to a blunt weapon, and its damage is not as sharp as Li Feng's magic long knife. After Mordu smashed the devil's chest with a short stick several times and spit out a few mouthfuls of blood from the opponent, Hagrid finally broke free of the time spell. He patted his chest, and Hagrid said that Mordor had only caused a slight injury to him, and at the speed of his devil's recovery, this injury was only a trivial matter. Just when Hagma was about to rush towards Li Feng again and forcefully occupy Li Feng's body, the priest finally finished chanting the spell and said, "Amen." Mordu suddenly felt that Hagrid was weakened for the most part, and immediately closed the portal, cutting off the continuity between Hagrid and Hell again. At this time, Hagrid, who had been weakened twice in a row, was somewhat square, which was completely different from what he thought. "I blame the priest. If it weren't for his constant curse, my strength would be weakened by more than half. I'm all right now. I can't get out of this different space, but before I die, I'll kill you, Father Broken Mouth. By the way, the soul is hiding in your corpse. I know that there is a custom of going into the earth for peace in this world. When I leave the different space, I will see how I will deal with you after I contact the hell." Hegman, who had clearly pounced on Li Feng, suddenly pounced on him. The priest said that he was just an ordinary person, not Hegman's opponent at all, and he was willing to leave the court obediently to receive a lunch. Although the priest was dead, he also bought time for Mordor and Beeman to kill Hagman. They saw the two cut off the devil's head one after another. Seeing Hagrid's body burned into a big fire after death, and finally turned into a black-gray layer, Li Feng said with a sigh of relief, "It's finally over." Mordu looked at Li Feng, then at the priest's corpse. The corners of his mouth were slightly tilted, and he muttered inwardly, "Are you sure it's over?" While preparing the spell secretly, Mordo said in a tone that I knew too much about the devil, "Think about how long it took the devil to occupy the body of Hagma." Suddenly, Li Feng and Beeman realized something. They subconsciously looked at the priest's corpse. At the same time, both of them had a sentence in their hearts, "Ma Dan, we still have to fight." Mordu, who was prepared for the spell, secretly relieved his breath. "Since you are going to pretend to be dead, then really go to die." After thinking about it, Mordu reached out his finger to the priest's corpse, and the corpse was instantly swallowed by the mirrored space. Before the corpse completely disappeared, Li Feng's eyes twitched and subconsciously cast a spell to get the Solomon spellbook out of the priest's hand. At the same time, Li Feng felt that he could vaguely hear the devil in the priest's body shouting, "No." It can only be said that Mordu's accomplishments in the magic of the mirror space are beyond Li Feng's imagination. At least if he converts the space in the mirror space, it is not as fast and concealed as Mordu. Perhaps Li Feng has not finished casting the spell, and the devil who has noticed the fluctuation of the spell has already jumped up and slapped Li Feng. Definitely, this is also the reason why the devil does not understand the Kamar Taj spell. Otherwise, how could the devil possess the priest and wait for Mordor to cast the spell, throw him into a different dimension and be crushed to death by the power of the space? Mordu looked around, put the short club back on his back, and said, "It's the end now." After speaking, Mordu reached out his hand to open the portal and signaled everyone to leave the mirror space. Li Feng was the last one to leave the mirror space, because he found that the black and gray marks left by the devil after his death seemed to be the best spellcasting materials. As a poor magician, there is no reason to give up when encountering spellcasting materials. When Li Feng picked up the Solomon spellbook on the ground and passed through the portal, he saw Beeman's face full of doubts, returning the long knife in his hand to himself. Li Feng thought for a while. Now that the matter is over, the spellbook for Solomon is in hand. If Mordu doesn't urge him, he still wants to learn the sword technique with Beeman. What a shame. "Modo, are you in a hurry to go home?" Mordu looked at Li Feng, who was holding the long knife, in a puzzled way. After turning his eyes on the long knife, he guessed Li Feng's plan. He rolled his eyes and said, "I take a rest for a month and go home for a month." Li Feng chuckled twice, inserted the long knife back to his waist, looked around at a few people, and said to Beeman, "I know you have many questions and want answers. In exchange, you teach me the practice of swordsmanship, and I know everything about you." Before Beeman and Fersen spoke, Kay asked excitedly, "Who are you?" "Necromancer." Li Feng thought for a while. Although Berman and Fersen did not trust the plan of the Holy See in their hearts, they still believed in God. In addition, they had just eliminated the devil. The relationship between the Holy See, it is estimated that the existence of Li Feng and Mordu will not be told to the Holy See. Only Kai, the child sacrifice, trusts the Holy See and believes in God. If he does not use words to package himself into a glorious image that emits the holy light, he will probably turn his head and tell the Holy See that Li Feng had patted his butt and left, but this world's demon magician is miserable. We come from a secret organization. Our life's work is to stop and kill those evil alien magical creatures. Speaking of this, Li Feng pointed to the damaged prison car and said, "The devil is also a magical creature of Otherworld, and it is also on our hunting list." As Li Feng recounted the duties of Taj Kama in front of everyone, Mordu rolled his eyes secretly, and spit out inwardly, "Do you want to face this? You are neither a person from this world nor Kama Taj's magician, so what is the matter of putting these glory on your face?" I wanted to return, but Mordu didn't break the lie that he and Li Feng were not from this world. Otherwise, it would take a lot of words to explain how they came. It's better to think about what Li Feng said before. What about the change of mind? Kai can understand that in addition to the devil, there are all kinds of bizarre creatures in this world. He silently thought, maybe the elves and other races in myths and legends really exist in a certain corner of this world. The devil is wiped out, and Beeman and others also know the origin of Li Feng, and the matter is over. After Beeman publicly admitted that Kai was already a glorious knight, Kai cast aside his eyes on Li Feng and Mordu, mounted his horse and turned away. Looking at the direction of Kai's departure, Li Feng scratched his eyebrows and turned his head to ask Mordu, "Do you think this little guy will tell the Holy See our existence?" Mordu shrugged and said with a smile, "What if you don't tell? What if you tell? Even if the Holy See knows, then what?" The implication is that regardless of the power of the Holy See, but they will all leave this world and return to the Marvel world by then, what can the Holy See do with them? Have the ability to run the Marvel world to arrest two people. See how Ancient One coaxes these stubborn heretics to death. But we have left. It is estimated that Beeman and Fersen will not even want to go back to their hometown to live a stable life. In any case, Beeman and Barstow look too similar, and Li Feng's conscience can't make the decision that the opponent who is pitted with Beeman while learning swordsmanship will be run around by the Holy See. After thinking about it, Li Feng decided to tell Beeman a white lie to mislead the Holy See. As for what the Holy See would do later, Li Feng said that he could not control that much. The magicians live in the highest peak in the world, somewhere in Everest. As for the specific location, Li Feng turned his head and curled his eyes and couldn't help but laughed out of Mordu, and continued to Beeman, "It's not convenient for us to talk about the specific location." Beeman nodded. He understood Li Feng's intention to say that the magician lives in the land. It was nothing but fear that they would be persecuted by the Holy See. The Holy See would kill and vent its anger if they could not get any information from their mouths. However, after this task of escorting the witch, Beeman said that besides his firm belief in God, he did not trust the Holy See even more. Escorting the devil is so important that the Holy See actually allows them to complete it. This is a major event related to the invasion of Hell. The Holy See still ranks the event level after the task of slaughtering infidels. Does this look down on Hell or look at them too cowboy, or know that they can destroy the devil? Fortunately, the devil was eventually wiped out. If they make a slight difference in their mission, the consequences will be disastrous. It's just that Beeman is still thinking about the whole thing now and getting more and more angry. What do you say is this? The Holy See slaughtered humans and gave the source of hell constantly. Sending the souls makes the devil have the capital to escape hell. On the other hand, the magician, who was promoted by the Holy See as a heresy, is taking the task of destroying the devil. Isn't the Holy See destroying the devil and slaughtering mankind for experimentation or something? How the legend and reality fell apart. 1 month later, Li Feng, whose skin was blue and purple on all parts of his body, said to Beeman with a tired face that the sword skills he had learned were enough and he was leaving. If he does not leave, Li Feng is afraid that he will be beaten by Beeman's wooden sword into life and cannot take care of himself. Take a look at how Beeman taught Li Feng, picking up 2 wooden sticks to show that he can hone his sword in actual combat. After surgery, Li Feng was beaten by Beeman every day from morning to evening, so that Li Feng could form muscle memory within a month of practice. In the middle of the night, Beeman will also let Fersen hold a wooden stick to attack Li Feng at night. What do you mean by this? Li Feng didn't sleep well when he came to this world. He really couldn't stand this kind of training that was more brutal than Mordor. It's a pity that Beeman knew that Li Fang's opponents were ferocious and cunning alien creatures, so he wished to hand over his martial arts to Li Fang, no matter how hard Li Fang complained, especially when Li Fang entrusted him to help train swordsmanship. For this Beeman said that he was very happy to abuse Li Fang. To explain in Beeman's words, the teaching time is too short. You can only use this kind of hell-level practice that I abuse you, you can only smash your teeth to make Li become stronger quickly. Especially when Mordu said that he would look at Li Fang to make sure that Li Fang would not die, and cast spells to recover Li Fang's injury after the end of the training every day. Beeman even thought of law abuse. No, he was teaching Li Fang, only hope that Li Fang in the future, we can kill more alien creatures to ensure that humans will not suddenly become slaves to creatures such as demons. For this, Li Fang sincerely expressed his gratitude to Fosun and Beeman. I thank you, Uncle, Ma Dan, I have to thank others for torturing me for a month. I am also cheap enough. So 1 month later, Li Fang couldn't wait to say goodbye to Berman and Verson, and summoned a blue and white light gate. Before Verson and Berman painted a cross on their chests and said, Amen, Li Fang seemed to flee for his life. De and Mordu disappeared in front of the two of them. Back in the Marvel world, Li Fang looked at the electronic clock on the bedside for the first time. This time he passed through, but he carefully savored the energy of the quantum and the portal, just to understand the difference in the flow of time caused by the passage. Mordu, who was vomiting profusely again, rubbed his stomach, looked curiously at Li Fang, who was constipated with his eyes closed. After a while, he saw what Li Fang was doing. I also need to check the quality of the energy you use. Finally, I'm reminding you that next time you return to the local world, you can open the place where you will cross the door. You can try the place where you landed in Otherworld, which may be helpful to you. For a long time, Li Fang scratched his head and smiled bitterly. My strength is still too low. It would be nice to be able to check how much energy I have used. I want to check the quality. After a few years. Your opinion, let me try it next time. Mordu turned his head and glanced at Li Fang's room, and said quietly, no need next time, just this time. Ma Dan, I originally wanted to go to Otherworld to open my eyes, but it turned out to be good. I didn't talk about it and went to Otherworld to destroy the devil. To kill the devil, won't I kill it in the local world? I ran to Otherworld all the way to kill. I'm sicker you have medicine. If it weren't for the last month that Bayman and Fersen told me about some customs in that world, I didn't see anything in this journey. Arrived, it was in vain. Li Fang heard that Mordor was not satisfied with this alien journey, and said, the problem is that I don't know where we will go. Also, what do you mean by that I want to cross again? Mordo nodded. Since he knows that Li Fang's mana is biased towards the dark, he can guarantee that he will not harm Li Fang and keep the issue of Li Fang's mana attribute secret, but what if he is known by another magician? There are more knowledgeable people in Kamatage. As long as Li Fang practices magic in Kamatage, sooner or later others will discover the secret of mana attributes. So after knowing that Li Fang is destined to go to the Dark Camp, Mordor already knows that Li Fang will not look forward to practicing magic in Kamatage for a long time. When Li Fang leaves Kamatage, he wants to cross and he doesn't know how to find the other side. It's better to go through Otherworld again. Gain insight. Master Ancient One and I recounted our journey through, and then set off for Otherworld again. After speaking, Mordor didn't care what Li Fang thought, and went straight to the Ancient One's lounge. Li Fang chuckled, shrugged and murmured, yes, I'm an elevator attendant. I can't make the decision if I want to stop on several floors. It depends on Mordu's face if I can't pass through. Mordu leaving Li Fang's room was a bit hesitation. He didn't believe that Ancient One didn't see Li Fang's mana problem. This was obviously Ancient One's indulgence. A person who uses dark energy hides in Kamatage and allows him to learn Kamatage's spells a lot. What does Ancient One want to do? And where did Ancient One's previous teaching I understand wrong? Mordu walking to the Ancient One lounge felt a little confused in his mind. He raised his knocking hand and never knocked on the door several times. He didn't know what he was afraid of. For a long time, the Ancient One in the lounge sat at the tea table, waved his hand to open the door, and signaled that Mordo was sitting across from him. While making tea for Mordo, he smiled and said, I just came here, just boil the water, and accompany me. I have a sip of tea. Although Mordu is black, he has lived in Kamataj for many years and knows that just boiled water is not suitable for tea. To make tea, it depends on what kind of tea it is, and then choose the right water temperature to make the tea to have a sweet aftertaste. Sitting across from Ancient One, Mordu thought about what Ancient One was suggesting with the tea, and took the small porcelain cup in his hand, and said, "Master, we have encountered the devil on your trip to another world." Ancient One raised his brows with a slightly surprised expression, and while drinking tea, he motioned to Mordu to continue. "I found that Li Feng was learning spells from the devil." While speaking, Mordu had been carefully observing the changes in Ancient One's facial expressions. Except for frowning, Ancient One's always smiling expression made Mordu unable to judge that Ancient One was treating Li Feng. "Know how much?" Ancient One saw Mordu not continuing after speaking, put down the porcelain cup in his hand, and said, "The water temperature of 70 to 80 degrees is suitable for brewing non-fermented tea, such as green tea sencha, because these green teas are made with too high water temperature. The infusion will release the tea tannins, making the tea soup easy to bitter. The water temperature of 90 degrees is suitable for brewing lightly fermented tea species, or tea leaves with sprout tips, finely divided tea leaves, such as biloachan. The water temperature above 90 degrees is suitable for brewing teas that are more than moderately fermented, that is, relatively mature teas, because the high fermented teas are resistant to high temperatures and help the fragrance release, such as high mountain tea and Tigenian." Mordu was taken aback for a moment, then looked down at the green tea in the porcelain cup. After a long time, Mordu said quietly, "You want to tell me that nothing can be extreme. It's like using 100 degrees boiling water, which is not suitable for soaking tea. Will it destroy the fragrance of tea?" Ancient One poured out the tea in the porcelain cup and said with a smile, "I just want to tell you that this cup of tea doesn't taste good." Li Feng didn't know what Ancient One had talked with Mordu in the lounge. He only knew that his room was waiting for Mordu to return. He lay bored and fell asleep. He didn't know until Mordu came to him with food. It was already the next morning, and we could see how tired Li Feng, who had been tortured by life in the wild for more than a month, was so exhausted. Mordu put down the dinner plate in his hand and said blankly, "Master Ancient One is looking for you. I hope you will take Theosolomon spellbook to meet in Ancient One's training room after breakfast." After speaking, Mordu turned and left Li Feng's room. When he closed the door, he suddenly hesitation, and said, "I told Ancient One about your use of time spells against the devil." Ancient One was surprised. "She said that this was originally your spell. She was the first to learn from you." Li Feng was picking up the dinner plate, blinking inexplicably at the door being pulled by his hand, ready to close the door at any time. "Mordu, what does Ancient One's surprise mean? Didn't she know that I can use time-like spells?" Looking at the entanglement and envy in Mordu's eyes, Li Feng somewhat understood Mordu's purpose of saying this to himself. "You want to learn time spells, but you don't know how to speak." Rolling his eyes at Mordu, Li Feng smiled and walked out of the room holding the dinner plate and said, "Yes, at the time Master Ancient One used her private collection of books in exchange." Mordu heard Li Feng's meaning. "I want to learn time spells, okay, but what do you exchange for? Time spells are so precious and difficult to practice. Just look at Kamataj who knows this kind of spells besides Ancient One. Mordu wants to learn but is afraid that he does not have the ability to practice time spells. Give it to Li Feng, but he can only look at the spell book in a daze." Li Feng saw Mordu's entanglement, smiled and patted Mordu on the shoulder, and said, "You should learn from Ancient One for a while, just say that I allow it." Mordu smiled awkwardly and turned to leave, thinking that without mentioning whether he could learn time spells in the end, with Li Feng's permission to try time spells, he should give Li Feng a gift. Li Feng didn't know what Mordu was thinking about, and while holding the plate for breakfast, he walked all the way to the Ancient One training room. Outside the Ancient One practice, Li Feng tidied his clothes and knocked on the door of the room lightly. "Come in." Li Feng entered the room, put his hands together and respectfully bowed to Ancient One, sat cross-legged across from Ancient One, and handed Theosolomon spellbook to Ancient One. At the same time, he also handed Ancient One his own magic book. Li Feng would like to ask Ancient One interprets the dark spells taught by the devil. Ancient One read Theosolomon spellbook, and said with a smile, "I know from Mordu that you use the slowing spell to trap a devil." With a little shyness, Li Feng Shanshan said, the devil's power has been weakened by at least a half before he can be trapped by time spells, and the trapped time is very short. This is also an amazing ability. Ancient One looked up at Li Feng, blinked and said, "At least you can use time spells in battle." Ancient One quickly finished reading Theosolomon, spell book, and said with regret, "A very interesting spell, but it is of little use to our magician. It relies more on the power of faith in God to complete the spell." While returning Theosolomon, spell book to Li Feng, Ancient One said, "Unless you give up your magician status and become a pious priest in the church." A ghost wants to be a priest, how handsome magician is. With a little regret, Li Feng frowned and asked, "Is there no effect at all?" Ancient One shrugged and said with a smile, "The magic inside depends on the power of faith, and it is not impossible to transform into magic power. But first we need to know the principle of the magic. The problem is that this is the book of God. Where can you find God to explain the magic for us, principle?" Before I finished speaking, Ancient One felt like he had said something wrong, and he mused for a while and smiled bitterly. "I almost forgot, people may not meet angel or God for several lifetimes, but you are different. In a certain world behind you maybe there are angel and God. If you can meet him, maybe you can ask about the principles of these spells. When you understand the principles, maybe you will get the title of Devil Nemesis. The Devil Buster can understand. After all, the main purpose of the Solomon spell book is to destroy the devil, but ask God for spells. Hee, this is really crazy. I think it's better to ask the devil. After all, the devil has played more games than God, and who knows what God's attitude toward using dark energy is. In case I think I'm evil and want to hang me up, what should I do? Am I begging for mercy or surrendering to the ground? Or decent heroism?" Li Feng slandered, opened the magic book and handed it to Ancient One, pointing to the spells on the magic book and said, "These are all taught by the devil. I know there are problems with these spells, but I can only find out some of them. For example, the devil will locate the caster, and the soul will be corroded by darkness after using a certain spell many times, so now I can only be greedy, but I don't dare to practice a spell." While checking the spells, Ancient One said, "Your caution is right." Pointing to one of the plague flame spells, Ancient One smiled. "For example, after using this spell multiple times, your body will be infected by the extraordinary plague, and eventually become a show-off clothes in his closet after being perception by the devil to your place. Clothing. You always say that the devil possesses. When it comes to clothes, I feel like I am wearing clothes, but my heart is panicked. I don't know if you can help me sort out these dark spells. I want to learn, after all." With a bit of bitterness, Li Feng sighed and said, "After all, my mana attributes give me no choice, and Mordu already knows my mana problem, and I guess I won't spend much time in Kamatage." Scratching his head, Li Feng said with an embarrassed expression, "As for the reward, some magic items I will collect in other worlds in the future. If you are interested in it, I can give you some." Ancient One actually didn't want Li Feng to be in touch with the spells taught by the devil so early. Originally, he was thinking about how to teach Li Feng step by step. Now that Li Feng wants her to help modify the magic, Ancient One feels that he should change the spell more thoroughly and try to change the dark spell as much as possible. It can be considered as a transitional period when Li Feng is exposed to the dark energy as a general-purpose spell or a spell that is in touch with darkness. Thinking of this, Ancient One got up and took the magic book and returned to the desk, recording dozens of dark magic in the book on paper. Then Ancient One returned the magic book to Li Feng and said with a smile, "Although I am satisfied with some of the potential changes in Mordu, Mordu himself was a little disappointed in his first journey through the journey. He felt that he had not seen the excitement. In the magical world, I hope to travel with you once." Pointing to the dark spell on the desk, Ancient One smiled and shook his head to reject Li Feng's empty check. "I will check and modify these spells for you. It is Mordor's reward for borrowing you to go through the door." This means that the Ancient One family doesn't care about Li Feng's private collection. If you ask others to help modify the dark spells, Li Feng will sell his pants and no one will come to help so much. Originally, Li Feng was going to take Mordu through once, but he didn't expect that there would be an unexpected gain. Borrowing the portal was nothing. For Li Feng, it was to let Ancient One help for free. Thinking of this, Li Feng folded his hands and saluted, and said, "In this case, I will set off with Mordu for Otherworld now, but I can't control which world I go to. I hope this journey will satisfy Mordu. After bidding farewell to Ancient One, Li Feng quickly returned to the room. Before he opened the door of his own room, he had heard the movement caused by Mordu in his room. Li Feng opened the door, only to see Mordu Zhao waiting for himself with neatly dressed. After experiencing the last crossing, Mordu has understood why Li Feng should bring all the props he can carry. If he brought the equipment to restrain the devil during the first crossing, he would have abused Hagrid to death. How could he still use it? Uses Alaman to weaken the devil. So this time, Mordu said that he should bring some commonly used props with him, in case he encounters the devil again. After all, there are too many demons in the world. Seeing Li Feng's return, Mordu threw a cloak to Li Feng and said, "This is a thermostatic cloak. At least you can still breathe in the ice and snow this time. I don't want to see you shivering from the cold. It's too magician. Your face. There are free magic items available." Li Feng doesn't know what politeness means, so he put the cloak on himself, opened the door behind him, and said, "Welcome, Mr. Mordu on this flight. This flight will take off in 3 seconds. Passengers are requested to hold the captain firmly, and passengers who are airsick, please be careful not to throw vomit on the captain. The clothes on the captain are old and expensive." Mordu was silently grasping Li Feng, who had been trying to force him. The moment he rolled his eyes, Mordu was swallowed by the crossing door again. The two who had just been squeezed through the door found themselves in a dirty and smelly alley. Li Feng felt that there was a problem with Mordu's character. The last time he crossed through the plague-ridden world, the sanitary conditions were poor. Then it's a world where people don't take a bath. Now as soon as you come out, you are in the alley where the trash is piled up, and the rats collectively dance the square dance in front of you. Uncle Mordu, have you been too dark after washing your face for a long time? On the side, Mordu, who was vomiting a little, rubbed his stomach and asked, "Where is this?" Li Feng rolled his eyes and replied, "Earth." Mordu, I definitely know that it is the Earth, and you have to have that ability if you want to travel to other planets. Before the two of them walked out of the alley, Mordu suddenly grabbed Li Feng and hid in the corner, whispering, "There is a devil smell. It was the devil last time, but this time I met the devil again. Sure enough, I'm afraid that not only did you not wash your face, but you didn't take a bath for a few years, and your whole body was moldy." Li Feng, who cast aside his eyes, was a little speechless, slandering in his heart, "Can't you come to a simpler world? I'm just a rookie, how can I travel to the world of the devil?" After a while, Li Feng saw a man with scars on his face walking into the alley with 2 metal short sticks, while a middle-aged man with a Mediterranean hairstyle barked his teeth and attacked the scarred man from the darkness. It's a pity that the Mediterranean man is too weak for the Scar Man, and after being subdued by the Scar Man, he roars like a beast. Now, Li Feng knew who was the devil in Mordu's mouth without using instrumental inspection. When Scar Man asked the devil, "Nobilis, where is he?" Li Feng quietly stabbed in a daze, and said, "Do you want to help kill the devil?" Mordu squinted at the Scar Man, shook his head slightly and said, "That man is not right. He has no soul, only a spiritual body." Li Feng was stunned. Isn't the spirit body a projection of the soul? The soul is gone, where's the spirit body? It's like there is no entity, no matter how the light shines, there will be no shadow. What kind of trick otherworld? Isn't a soulless person just a living corpse in the legend? Mordu seemed to guess what Li Feng was thinking, and shook his head and said, "The other party's spirit body shows that he is wise, so he is not a ghoul or a zombie, but some kind of creature I don't know." At the moment, a policeman suddenly broke into the alley and prepared to clarify. When he saw Scar Man was about to kill the devil, the police could not see that the Mediterranean man was a devil. Out of duty, the police immediately drew out his gun and prepared for the Scar. The man said, "Police, put down your weapons." The voice of the police made Scar Man turned his head to look at the other person, and blocked the devil in front of him to prevent the police from shooting suddenly. The devil felt that this was an opportunity. He immediately used all his strength to break free of the Scar Man and then rushed to the police. The police were a little confused. What is the cause? Before the policeman Joe could figure out what was going on, the devil had already twisted the policeman's neck and fled away. Li Feng squinted at Scarman, who was chasing the devil, and the symbol on the metal short stick in Scarman's hand. He recognized what sign it was, and it was the weapon of the Stonewing Beast. So this is the world of the demon slayer. If I'm not mistaken, it was Adam who was chasing the devil just now, a human scientist who resurrected a human from scraps of internal organs. Seeing Adam had gone far, Li Feng walked out of the hiding corner, and said curiously, "You just said that he has no soul, how did you see it?" Mordu, who was still entangled in the novel species of Adam, looked at Li Feng contemptuously, and said, "I think you must not have studied spiritual spells well. I want to specialize in research. You ask the stinky librarian to lend me the magic book in the spirit body." Shrugging, Li Feng said helplessly, "You should tell me how you can see it." Mordu actually regretted it when he finished speaking. He had forgotten that Li Feng was not the magician of Taj Kama. With a little apology, Mordu explained to Li Feng, "Humans have souls and matching bodies, but creatures like the devil do not the same, or that they don't have a physical body, they must have a physical body if they want to survive in the human world. This causes a mismatch between the devil's possession and the physical body, and the spirit body presented is different from normal human beings. Just as the seven-color rainbow is actually the projection of sunlight, the spiritual body, as the projection of the soul, has many colors." Mordu pointed to Li Feng's hair and skin, and said, "Just like I can see black hair, yellow skin and white eyes after your spirit body comes out of your body, but the devil, ghouls and other creatures are dead. Their spirit bodies are only black and white." Mordu looked in the direction Adam was leaving, and said, "But although the person's spiritual body is also colorful, there is a big gap between each color. Can you imagine the 7 colors of a rainbow are separated by a certain distance?" Quote. Touching his chin, Mordu faintly guessed, "The soul and the physical body are closely related and affect each other, plus I see that there are scars everywhere on his body, how do I think that guy is a suture monster? It's just that the flesh is full of activity, resulting in a black and white spirit body." Colorful colors and integrate. Li Feng scratched his eyebrows. "You bull, you can guess this. It was really a suture monster born, but a soul appeared later." Wait, since the soul and the body influence each other, then Adam's spirit body is colorful. Doesn't it mean that Adam's body is about to produce a soul? Patting Li Feng on the shoulder, Mordu said, "Let's go, let's follow the Scar Man. In my impression, the suture monster is an inhuman creature. If he is bloodthirsty on the streets, we can stop each other." Li Feng thought for a while, nodded and followed Adam. To say that there are many things that Li Feng is interested in this world. The first is the experimental notes left by Adam's creator Victor Frankenstein when he resurrected Adam. If Li Feng can get it with this notebook, he felt that he could use cats and dogs as an experiment and raise a pet that is immortal for fun. If you want to get this experimental notebook, you just need to follow the plot and keep a close eye on Adam. There are also stone-winged beasts, and Li Feng is also curious about what species they are. Are they really created by Angel Michael? Before the two chased him out, they saw Adam cleanly kill a demon who helped the devil in the Mediterranean. On the side, Mordor frowned and mumbled, "It's as simple as eating and drinking water to send a devil's soul back to hell. His power and speed are all far from Superman, and the most important thing is reason. This is by no means as simple as a living corpse." Afterwards, the Mediterranean devil seemed to understand that he was not Adam's opponent, and hurriedly climbed onto the roof to escape. Adam turned his head and glanced at Li Feng and Mordu, and hurriedly overtook the roof. Unfortunately, when he climbed the roof, he was only able to rush to the devil to escape into a castle-shaped building. Adam, who already understood that he couldn't catch up with the devil, carried his short club, turned his head and looked viciously at Mordu and Li Feng who were also on the roof, and said, "Who are you? Devil, or human?" Neither Mordu nor Li Feng paid attention to Adam, but looked at a tall monastery in the distance. Li Feng scratched his brows. He felt that the world was a little crazy. In such a big castle in the city, humans hadn't noticed that the statue on it was actually alive. How blind is this? Mordu pointed to the Stonewing Beast Monastery, turned his head and said to Adam, "Where is that? I can feel that there is a layer of divine energy protecting it." Mordu's words made Adam clearly understand that the two people in front of him were by no means ordinary humans, and ordinary humans could not see the energy barrier that protected the monastery. Also who heard Mordu's words was a stone-winged beast who watched Adam chase the devil in front of humans. After thinking about it, he decided to meet this human who gave him a sense of danger, especially Li Feng. he was perceived in Li Fang's body. Dark energy. The stone-winged beast quietly landed in front of Mordu, from an ugly beast like a gray-white stone sculpture to a human appearance, and said, "Who are you?" Li Fang on the side felt that he had been insulted. The Adam you know didn't call roar. I can understand this, but there are two people besides Adam. You ask who Mordor is, what about me? Rookie magician isn't magician. Before Li Fang finished deformating his belly, Stonewing Beast turned his head and stared at Li Fang's pocket, and said suspiciously, "What's in your pocket?" Pocket. Li Fang subconsciously touched the pocket containing Theosolomon spell book, and suddenly remembered that the legendary Solomon's key was the spell book written by Angel. The stone-winged beast in front of him was also Angel's man. Sense the existence of Solomon's key. Li Fang cast his eyes to guard Mordu of the stone-winged beast, thought for a while, and while taking out Theosolomon's key from his pocket, he said, "Hello, we are traveling magician, my name is Austin, he is me. Mordor's partner." Li Fang handed Theosolomon's key to Stonewing Beast, and said, "This is the spell book I got during a trip, but I don't understand the principle of the spell above. Can you help me?" The Stone-Winged Beast carefully took Theosolomon's key, and he knew that it was a certain angel's spell book based on the energy he had sensed by touch. After a random glance, he returned Theosolomon's key to Li Fang, and said, "My name is Ophir, and I don't have enough knowledge to explain the principles of spells. If you want to understand spells, you'd better go to the Stonewing Beast Monastery to find our queen. As for now, I still have things to do." Then, Ophir said to Adam with bad words, "Our war with the devil shouldn't be discovered by humans, how about you? Acting in the human world, indirectly killed a policeman." Without waiting for Adam to refute, Ophir returned to the look of a Stonewing Beast, holding Adam's feet and flying to the Stonewing Beast Monastery. Before leaving, Ophir said to Mordu and Li Fang, "I am waiting for your arrival at the Stonewing Beast Monastery." Mordor, who was always on guard, saw Ophir fly away, and he let out a long breath. "Don't look at his ugly appearance, but I feel that he also doesn't have a complete soul. The body is more like a fighting puppet, and the soul is a driver, member." Li Fang, do you know what a stone-winged beast is? Touching his chin, Mordu squinted a lot of Li Fang and said, "I always think you know a lot. How do you want me to answer? Say I learned about it through movies." Shrugging his shoulders, Li Fang curled his lips and said, "I have heard some legends about stone-winged beasts in other worlds. It is said that stone-winged beasts are the army of Angel Michael to deal with the devil." After a pause, Li Fang touched the Solomon's key, and said, "I want to go to the Stonewing Beast Monastery. How about you?" Together. Mordu silently walked to the roof, looked at the building where the devil had escaped before, and said, "Let's go together, I think this world will be very interesting, there are stone-winged beasts and a lot of devil." The devil. Li Fang glanced at the ancient castle-like building, and muttered in his heart, "This is the laboratory of the devil Prince Nabilis. The laboratory is built under the eyes of the stone-winged beast. Since the stone-winged beast I haven't noticed it. It should be said that it is a soul-defective creature. Is the brain just not good?" Mordor and Li Fang came across, and the rule of traversal is that you can't carry anything except magic-related items. Money is naturally on the list of prohibited items, so Li Fang can only look at the towering monastery in the distance, stepping forward with his feet. When Li Fang and Mordu arrived at the Stonewing Monastery, Ophir had already followed the Stonewing Queen Leonor and waited at the door for the arrival of the two magicians. After the two parties briefly introduced themselves, Leonor invited Li Fang into the monastery, but Li Fang did not expect that he and Mordu had just entered the monastery with their front feet. Leonor waved his hand and closed the door, and said to Li Fang in a bad tone, "Who are you?" Li Fang is a little inexplicable. Didn't he introduce himself before? Why did you turn your face suddenly? Mordu on the side guessed the reason, and smiled and said in a low voice, "Think about the priesthood of the Stonewing Beast. Thinking about your mana." Li Fang was stunned, his mouth twitched and slandered, "Maiden. I am a natural mana attribute, what can I do, and you, Ophir, don't look at you with an honest hand. Plaster face, your heart is sinister enough, I guess you can't beat Mordu, so you invite me to your base camp, want to win by the number, right? I even think of you as a mentally disabled, especially in your eyes, automatically sent I'm the one who came to the door as a brain dead." Glancing at the humanoid stone-winged beasts surrounding him, Li Feng thought for a while, and felt that in this world that can lead to the big angel Michael's territory, it would be better for him to speak clearly with Leonore, who can contact Michael. At that time, there was a lot of trouble inexplicably. Li Feng took a deep breath, and while demonstrating Kama-Taja's shield to show the identity of the magician, he calmly said, "We are the magician of Otherworld. We come to your world through magic to increase our knowledge. As for my mana problem," Li Feng spread his hands and said helplessly, "This is a natural energy attribute, and I can't help it." Leonore knows that this world connects hell and heaven, and he also knows the many worlds connected by hell and heaven, so he understands the word, travel. The only thing he didn't expect is that he will meet otherworld travelers one day, or two. Human beings. In her impression, except that angel and the devil would travel to other worlds from time to time to show the power of gods or demons, humans, such weak creatures, have little to do with travel. Even a powerful magician cannot break the crystal wall of space. Moreover, Li Feng and Mordu are not the kind of magicians that are powerful enough to break crystal walls. Either the two are lying, or perhaps the two rely on some treasure to travel through. Considering that different worlds have different rules, Leonore cannot be sure that Li Feng, who uses dark energy, is the enemy. The so-called eyes are the window of the soul. Leonore looked at Li Feng's eyes seriously. After a while, he signaled the stonewing beast to put down the weapon in his hand, and said, "Energy attributes are not equal to character. I see humanity in your eyes. I believe you are not an evil magician, but for safety reasons, during your stay in our world, I let Ophir stay by your side." Li Feng nodded to express his understanding. He didn't care whether Ophir was monitoring or protecting by his side. He didn't want to make trouble from the beginning. He waited quietly for the plot to develop, and then returned to the Marvel world with Frankenstein's experimental notes. It was as simple as that. As for Mordor, he is here to gain knowledge, and the world can best allow Mordor to gain insight and change the attitude of people on the dark side as imprisoned in the monastery. Believe that a natural dark side but human, stitching monster, and finally Adam produced a soul and joined the sacred stone wing beast team to fight against the devil. Mordo's expression must be very exciting, which is in line with Ancient One wanting Mordu to change some extreme ways of thinking. At that time, I will see how you say the dark side is evil. Thinking of this, Li Feng took out Theosolomon's key from his pocket and handed it to Leonore, and said, "While in the monastery, can you help me explain the magical principles of this spell book? The content of Solomon's key is all related to fighting the devil." Leonore thinks that Li Feng learning such spells will only threaten the devil more, and their stone wing beasts can also learn some methods of restraining the devil while helping Li Feng explain these spells. This is a win-win situation. Leonore handed Theosolomon's key to Ophir and said, "Some simple spells Ophir can help you explain. After you learn these simple and have a certain understanding of angel spells, I will help you explain." Sophisticated angel spell. Li Feng looked at Ophir, who was expressionless. "What did you say before? I don't understand the spells recorded by Solomon. I remember that the Bible says that people cannot lie, so as Michael taught you the ability to open your eyes and tell lies. You want to pull Michael? Did you go to hell, dear?" Ignoring Li Feng's eyes, Ophir stretched out his hand to signal Li Feng to the lounge. As for Mordor, his gentle mana has shown that he is not the same as Li Feng, so Leonore wants to talk to Mordor, who is intimate, and inquire about Li Feng's character from the side. But before Li Feng had gone far, a stone-winged beast hurried to Leonore and said, "Queen, there is a trace of the devil near the church." Leonore frowned and asked, "How many demons are there?" "At least 50 devils. The monastery has been erected here for many years. The devil has long known the seat of the monastery, but the number of times the devil dared to attack the monastery is counted." Leonore instantly realized that the devil attacked the monastery for Adam, but he didn't understand why the devil Prince Nobilis took Adam so much, and he did not hesitate to spend his men to get Adam. However, it is not the time to solve the puzzles. Leonore turned around and said to the stonewing beast, "Protect Adam. The rest of you are ready to kill the devil and protect Adam." Li Feng curled his lips. He knew the reason for Nobilis's attack on the monastery, but what did he say? It is said that Nobilis secretly collects human corpses around the world, and wants his Hell Legion to possess these deadmans and then occupy the earth. It's just that Deadman's body is not suitable for the possession of the devil, so Nobilis wanted to get the secret of why Adam's body is full of vitality but no soul, so that the human corpses he collected can be resurrected as props for the possession of the devil, and because of the resurrected body without a soul, these possessed demons can exert 100% power in the world. Nobilis has been looking for Adam's whereabouts for these years. Until today, when Ophir brought Adam back to the monastery, he was seen by a devil and notified Nobilis, so the devil attacked the monastery. It is estimated that as soon as Li Feng said these words, Leonore first tied Li Feng's 5 flowers and asked how Li Feng knew these and whether he was with Nobilisi. Li Feng cast his eyes on Leonore's back, and said silently in his heart, Nobilisi's purpose is to catch Adam, but the demons have used a tactical strategy to catch you and threaten Stonewing to get what they want. It is said that the devil has not stayed in the world for so many years in vain. When do you read Sun Tzu's Art of War and other military books, you have learned to use strategy, so what is the trick? Mordor had already drawn out his weapons when he knew that the devil was attacking, and was ready to join the army to destroy the devil. Because of mana problems, Li Feng could not gain the trust of Stonewing beasts. In addition, Li Feng's rookie strength was limited in the battle, so while pulling out the weapon, he said to Li Feng, I will send you to a safe place first, and then I will go out to kill the devil. Is this underestimated? Li Feng obediently followed Ophir and ran to safety, while slandering, this time it was not just 50 demons who attacked the monastery. The number of them is far beyond your imagination. The important thing is that you underestimate me. I have a Solomon spellbook that restrains the devil. Under the leadership of Ophir, Li Feng killed all the demons who broke into the monastery. At the moment, Ophir had noticed that the number of demons who attacked the monastery was far beyond imagination, otherwise the monastery gate guarded by many companions would not allow so many. The devil broke into the monastery. Walking into the so-called safe place, Li Feng pointed at Adam who was locked in a chair and couldn't move, and said, This is the safe place you said. Maiden, don't you know that the ultimate goal of the devil is to get Adam? I have a fart safe with him. Looking at the beams of light rising to the sky outside the window, Adam knew that this was the sign of the stone-wing beast returning to heaven after being killed, and guessed that the number of demons coming to the monastery this time will not be small, and he understands that the stone-wing beast can't resist it. Numerous demons. Adam cast his eyes at Li Feng and shouted loudly, Afi, give me the weapon, I want to protect myself. Considering that there are too many demons, it is always good to have one more power to kill the demons. Ophir broke the chains that imprisoned Adam and gave Adam a weapon. Adam, who broke free of the chains and got a weapon, immediately carried the weapon to kill the devil. Li Feng took out his playing cards and shot several demons who barked his teeth. He glanced at Adam with a deep look. He knew that Adam had learned about the devil's plot in the subsequent battles and obtained Frankenstein's experimental notes. It seems that it is easier for me to follow Adam to get experimental notes. Li Feng looked at Ophir who was fighting with the devil again, thinking, should I leave Ophir and follow Adam to choose the cheapest? On the other side, Nobilisi's general, Julier, led a few elite demons quietly around the Stonewing beast, rushing in front of Leonore and successfully hijacking the queen of Stonewing beast. Several stone-winged beasts who discovered that Julier had hijacked their own queen roared, but their queen was in Julier's hands. They could do nothing but express anger. Soon, Stonewing beast passed the news of the queen's being held to Ophir's ears, and Li Feng, who was beside Ophir, also knew the news. The corner of his mouth was slightly tilted. Li Feng thought, it's time to express his kindness. I believe that in order to express gratitude, Stonewing beast will concentrate on helping me explain the principle of the magic on Thiki of Solomon. Thinking of this, Li Feng handed Theosolomon spellbook to Ophir, and said, this book is given to you. I think this spell book can exert its due effect in your hands. Does Li Feng care about the original, Solomon, spell book? Neither cared nor cared, because Li Feng had already copied all the spells in the magic book. The only thing he had to do was to find someone to analyze the spells. Ophir glanced at Li Feng. He knew how precious this spell book was to Stonewing beast. It was simply a nuclear weapon against the devil. After receiving the Solomon's key, and saying, thank you, Ophir returned to the gray-white stone-winged beast's posture, stirring his wings into the sky. Ophir flew high in the sky without attracting the devil's attention. It wasn't until Ophir opened the Solomon's key, found the corresponding spell and read it out loud, that the devil on the ground faintly felt that something was wrong. It's just that at the moment it's too late. Ophir made a call to God for help from his old man. God said that he received and promptly transmitted a huge energy to Ophir along with his faith. In midair, Ophir, whose original pale skin was blessed by powerful energy, turned into a holy milky white with white brilliance. The whole person was like a bright energy-saving light bulb, illuminating the entire monastery. As Ophir finished chanting the spell, a shock of invisible energy spread out from Ophir. The devil who noticed the big Ophir light bulb first wondered what the stonewing beast had evolved into a luminous beast, and then watched the energy rushing through the body at a loss. Some weak demons were directly killed by the energy shock and sent back to hell. The stronger demons would not be better, and they would appear extremely weak after the energy shock. The stone-wing beasts on the side didn't care why the devil became weak under the impact of energy. They only knew that such a good opportunity would hurt their conscience if they missed it, so they cut the scum devil with a knife. At the moment, Li Feng silently hid in a corner, watching the killing of a lot of demons in the corner, causing a sweaty look, and a devil who broke into the monastery far away was greatly reduced by the impact of energy, and he was unlucky. To Adam with a murderous look. Mordu hid in the corner to observe Adam, only out of curiosity. He wondered how an inhuman, stitching monster would deal with this hapless devil. Adam didn't waste a lot of effort and beat the devil all over the floor looking for teeth, and asked, "Where is Nabilisi?" The devil sneered, "They are waiting for you." Adam was stunned. "What do you mean? What is waiting for me?" The devil wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and smiled. "We know that the stone-wing beasts will do their best to protect you in order to prevent you from falling into our hands. However, the number of stone-wing beasts is too small. The protection of the queen-wing beast allows Juliel to hijack the queen. In exchange, as long as she gets out of you, we will release the queen." Adam knows that Leonore can communicate with Angel Michael, who is the spiritual leader of Stonewing Beast, and Stonewing Beast will definitely exchange Leonore for himself. Similarly, Adam knew that he was neither a Stonewing Beast nor a human being, but a soulless monster created by humans. But Leonore, who knew that she was born, had a very good attitude towards herself. At least she did not immediately kill herself after catching herself. Instead, she gave a self-defense weapon to destroy the devil and talked about a lot of truth in life, so from the heart said that Adam still hopes that he can rescue Leonore. Watching the devil talk about that what Leonore sees is only a monster being imprisoned, Adam couldn't help but screamed, "Nonsense," in his heart, and used his fist in holy water to ask the location of the exchange of Leonore from the devil's mouth. Seeing Adam who ran out of the monastery alone, preparing to rescue Leonore, Mordu felt an indescribable feeling in his heart. Is Adam who was born without following the laws of nature really evil? Will he disrupt the balance of nature? The stone-winged beast that guards the human world knows that Adam has no soul, but a thoughtful living corpse. Not only did he not kill Adam on the spot, but also the most basic imprisonment. Instead, he chose to let him go and let him be given a weapon. Living alone, is Leonore's approach right or wrong? Until Adam's back disappeared in front of him, Li Feng, who decided to give Mordu a strong medicine, walked to the blank face of Mordu, and said, "The stone-winged beasts in this world are Angel's Legion, since she the winged beast knows Adam. Does that mean that God may also know the existence of Adam?" But do you see God's reaction? After spreading his hands, Li Feng said, "Although Adam was not created by God, he did not deprive Adam of his right to life. At least he allowed Adam to live freely for more than 200 years, and others can't see that you can't see it. Adam's the spiritual body color is already at the critical point. As long as he crosses that step, Adam will have a soul. By then, he will not be a monster, but a human being, a human with extraordinary power." After that, Li Feng didn't care whether Mordu would figure it out, and ran and hung behind Adam. On the other side, the queen was kidnapped, and Gideon became the supreme officer of the Stonewing Beast. After Adam ran out of the monastery and disappeared, Gideon reluctantly prepared to exchange Frankenstein's experimental notes for their queen, but his decision was not approved by his companions. "I was arguing with the Stonewing Beast about whether to exchange the experimental notebook for the queen, and I was deeply entangled. On the one hand, the evil, stitching monster, in the impression went to rescue the Stonewing Beast queen alone, and the other side was the righteous Stonewing. Because the beast couldn't bet on the queen's life, he couldn't find Adam and used the Frankenstein experimental notes that the devil longed for in exchange for the queen. Mordu said that he could not understand this world. If he was a stone-winged beast, no matter what, the queen is not the queen. Once the devil is eager to get the experimental notes, the consequences are much more serious than losing a queen. In contrast, let Gideon is holding Theosolomon's key, and gathering troops to enter the devil's lair is the right choice. If the queen died unfortunately, it would also be the fate, no wonder who. It's a pity that Mordo knew that he was always an outsider. These stone-winged beasts would not listen to his advice, and he heard that Gideon said, Leonore is the only one of us who can contact the great angel Michael, and is our spirit. At the time of the leaders, Mordo clearly felt that the surrounding stone-winged beasts had agreed with Gideon's plan to exchange experimental notes for Leonore. Regarding this, Mordo could only have a headache silently on the sidelines. When Gideon took the experimental notebook and flew to the Warden Theater in the exchange for Leonore, Adam, who was running on 2 legs, had just ran to the gate of the theater. In the distance, Li Feng squeezed his knees and gasped, watching Gideon flying out of the theater with Leonore, and couldn't help but vomit. Maiden, it's great to fly. It was clearly that Adam and I left the monastery first. Yes, it's okay now, you just fly over and complete the transaction before I ran to the gate of the theater. After a while, Li Feng, who felt his physical strength recovered, was about to sneak into the theater to check the situation. He saw a devil trotting out of the theater holding a notebook. Then, Adam panted and ran out of the theater. After identifying the direction, he walked along. The path of the devil's escape followed all the way. Li Feng scratched his eyebrows, and trot helplessly behind Adam. Although my physical stamina is pretty good among ordinary people, you are either the devil or the stitching monster. Will the physical strength be reduced? Or do you guys have found me and want to run around to exhaust me? Wait, when I return to the Marvel world, I must strengthen my physical fitness. Sooner or later, I will be exhausted from running a marathon. After Li Feng watched Adam follow the devil to Nobilisi's lair, and quickly sent the guard devil back to hell, Adam watched the surrounding areas and cautiously broke into the devil's lair. Li Feng, who feels that he is foaming at his mouth, is no longer ready to follow. First of all, Li Feng's strength does not allow him to break into the devil's lair. This is the devil's lair. Who knows how many demons are in it? Does Li Feng feel that he has the strength in the devil's lair? There was a big killing in the old lair. If Li Feng's brain breaks in, he might decide who to kill. Secondly, there is no need to waste little physical energy. Li Feng remembers that after Adam broke into the devil's lair, he understood the reason why Nobilis resurrected the body, and recovered Frankenstein's notebook and escaped safely. After reading the experimental notes, Adam returned to the devil's lair and followed Drive Wade, who helped Nobilis resurrect the body, hoping that Dr. Wade could help him accomplish what Frankenstein promised him at the beginning, and create a soulless monster like him. He has been alone in this world for 200 years, and he needs a companion. Therefore, Li Feng felt that he was still waiting for Dr. Wade outside the devil's lair to be safe and to get the experimental notebook. As night fell, Li Feng, who was hiding in the distance, saw a blonde woman hurriedly out of the devil's lair. At first Li Feng was not sure that this woman was the Dr. Wade he was looking for, but then Li Feng saw Adam also appearing in the distance, and quietly followed behind the blonde woman. What Adam didn't see was that not long after he left with Wade, a devil in black leather came out of his nest and quietly followed Wade. Li Feng curled his lips, followed behind Adam quietly, and said in his heart, Wade Crush, should you feel honored? A devil, a stitching monster, and a magician choose to follow you at the same time, and more importantly it is that none of our 3 extraordinary beings want your life. When Wade noticed that someone was following him behind him, Adam also noticed that the devil was following him from his birth. He immediately walked to Wade to show his identity and asked Wade to follow him. On the way, Li Feng listened to Adam's talk about the monastery and it's between the devil, and Wade has a bewildered look. I'm a scientist. You and the unscientific devil and angel, and the stone-winged beast that doesn't know what it is, do you think I will believe it? Wade felt that Adam had a brain problem when he was used as an experiment to resurrect the corpse. When I heard Adam tell Wade that her boss is the Devil Prince, Wade's eyes looked different when he saw Adam. You have a pretty funny expression on your mind. Li Feng said that he was amused by Wade's emoji and couldn't help but laugh. Adam kicked open the back door of an abandoned factory. Hearing Li Feng's laughter, he thought it was the devil who was catching up. He hurriedly guarded Wade behind him and shouted at the shadow, "Come out." Li Feng smiled as he walked out of the dark corner and said, "Adam, sorry, you just told Dr. Wade about the devil and the stone-winged beast. It's strange that she would believe it." "It's you." Adam saw that it was Li Feng who was following him. He breathed a sigh of relief and said to Li Feng while pulling Wade into the abandoned factory, "But what I said is true. As a magician, you not only have your own eyes." Seeing how the devil attacked the monastery, he shot many demons himself. Magician's name Roar made Wade look at Li Feng more subconsciously. "I don't know what material of the cloak. I have a pair of boots that are out of date for hundreds of years. The most important thing is the small belly and the long knife at the waist." Magician actually holds the small belly with a long knife. What about the staff? What about the said staff? This is by no means a magician with a white beard in my mind, but just like Adam, who is crazy. With Wade's strange eyes, Li Feng just shrugged his shoulders to express his love or not, thinking, "You will know if I am a magician or not. If you count the time, the movement of Adam before kicking the back door should attract the devil." Before Adam and Wade walked out of the abandoned factory, the inadvertent devil Julier suddenly broke into the abandoned factory and shouted at Adam, "Frank Stan," while restoring the appearance of the devil. Aside, Wade watched with a dull look at Juliel's head suddenly bursting into flames, revealing a hideous face. Li Feng took out his playing cards and patted Wade's shoulder, which was completely ruined. "Look, the devil, do you want to drag it into the laboratory?" Adam had pulled out 2 metal short sticks when he heard Juliel's cry, and rushed to the devil and said to Li Feng, "Protect Wade away." Li Feng casually shot a playing card at Julier and snapped his fingers to shut Wade in the mirror space, saying, "It's so cool to cooperate to kill this devil if you leave the dry egg." After that, Li Feng took out his playing cards to assist Adam while preparing time spells secretly. As long as he looked at the opportunity, he put the time spells in his hand onto Julier's face. Li Feng wanted to see it. This one was obviously not. Can the powerful devil break free from the cage of time spells? Julier's original strength and experience were much higher than Adam. If it weren't for Li Feng's playing cards to his face from time to time, it made him buzz as if there was a fly in his mind. He felt that it was only time to kill Adam. Problem. Juliel, who noticed that Li Feng shot a poker card with a range of only 10 meters, thought for a while. He felt that now he was rushing towards Li Feng. Adam would definitely pester himself and find a chance to give himself one. You must know that Adam's power is not small. Who knows this whether he will be hit by a concussion under a stick, it is better to change the battlefield. Thinking of this, Julier, who noticed the collapse of the factory floor not far away, beat and backed up. When Adam didn't notice, he kicked Adam downstairs. Is Li Feng's spell range only 10 meters? Nonsense. Who has seen a magician blast the spell 10 meters after the spell dissipates? Li Feng is only used to the precise control of playing cards and showing weakness to the devil. Now that Li Feng's time spell is ready, he is waiting to find a chance to confuse Julier's face. Seeing Julier ignoring his playing cards and preparing to jump downstairs to kill Adam, Li Feng immediately raised his hand and shot the spell. I saw a stream of spell instantly enveloping Julier, who had just jumped up. At the same time, Li Feng quickly drew his long knife and rushed to Julier's side. Head. Seeing Juliel's soul turned into a ball of fire and plunged into the ground, and the bones turned into dust, Li Feng was relieved, looked at Adam along the edge of the collapse, and said, "Man, there is no deadly creak." After speaking, Li Feng opened the portal connecting the mirrored space and took out the bewildered Wade from the space. Although outsiders cannot perceive the mirror space, people in the mirror space can see everything that is happening in the outside world. So Wade walked out of the mirror space and started deep roar sucks, rubbing his face and muttering to himself, "First, Adam lives. After hundreds of years, then the people around the boss turned into demons, and finally a magician who could shoot fire cards appeared. Is this the world I am familiar with?" Li Feng curled his lips and said contemptuously, "If you are a doctor, you can't think of the devil as an alien. And isn't magic an unknown science?" "Science," Wade said with a teasing expression on your face. "Then you use science to explain how you just made the cards burn when they collide with the devil." Li Feng stretched out his hand to cast a spell in the palm of his hand to summon a small flame, and said, doesn't the molecular vibration and friction cause a flame? Wade is a little speechless. She definitely knows that molecular vibration will cause flames, but the question is, how does Li Feng control the molecular vibration? Wade took a deep breath and asked, there are too many people who know that molecular vibrations will burn, but has anyone become a magician for this? Mental power, Li Feng explained. You can understand it as brain waves, infinite electric waves, etc. When you understand and use brain waves, you will find that spells are as simple as the remote control can change the TV station. At this time, Adam, who was kicked downstairs by Julier, staggered back in front of Li Feng and asked curiously, what kind of magic is the last trick? Why is Julier like a slow-motion movie? Li Feng explained casually. The time-slowing spell, as long as it is hit by the spell, the flow of time around the creature will slow down. Wade, who initially believed in magic and science, said in a daze, time. Can science explain time now? How do you slow down time? Can you still travel through time and return to the past or the future? Maiden, I shouldn't have said to a scientist that magic is the unknown science. Let's do it now. It will arouse a scientist's interest in questioning. Time is related to quantum energy. After explaining, Li Feng turned to look at Adam and said, man, are you sure we are suitable for chatting in this abandoned factory now? Are you afraid that Nobilici will send more demons to chase you? In fact, without Li Feng's reminder, Adam had already pulled Wade, who was about to ask how quantum energy manipulates time, and left, preparing to return to his dilapidated hut. Returning to the dilapidated hut, Wade looked at Li Feng with curious eyes while treating the wounds for Adam the flesh shield warrior. Adam endured the pain caused by Wade stitching up his wound, and asked Li Feng, why are you following me? Li Feng leaned back against the wall and shrugged and said, I am curious about you and Frankenstein's notebook that can resurrect corpses. You also know that I am a magician. In our eyes, you are like a suture monster resurrected by magic, but you have wisdom, and the magician's stitching monster is not wise. After thinking about it, Li Feng said to Adam, whose eyes were full of anger, if you are angry with the suture monster called Roar, I can apologize. In fact, I don't know what species I should call Roar for the time being. For now, Wade, who was busy stitching up Adam's wound, heard Li Feng's confusion and said, what does this mean? Li Feng walked up to Adam, squatted and looked at Adam, pointing to his own eyes and said, I don't know if you feel your own changes, but I found that your body has bred a soul, but now the soul is trapped in an egg. Inside the shell, I don't know what was born, so I can only say that for the time being, as for the future, you must be a human being, an extraordinary human with a long lifespan. After that, Li Feng looked at the experimental notebook on Adam's waist, slowly reaching out to the experimental notebook, and said, I'm very curious how Frankenstein gave you wisdom in the first place, and what caused you to nurture your soul now. Is it time, or what? When Adam heard that Li Feng said that he was about to have a soul, he was stunned. He was completely immersed in joy. He didn't recover until Li Feng's hand touched the notebook. However, Adam did not stop Li Feng's behavior, but a face. Tangledly asked, are you sure you see my soul? Holding the experimental notes, Li Feng stepped back a few steps, opening the notebook to record the contents on the magic book, and said, okay, if you don't believe it, you can try suicide and see if your soul floats out. Wade in the reconstruction of the three views thinks, since both the devil and angel have appeared, so a magician and the stitching monster in front of me are talking about the soul, I can still accept it. I just don't know that I am the devil prince. After working for so many years, will the soul go to heaven after death, or continue to work for Nobilici after going to hell? When he heard the proposal to Li Feng, Wade rolled his eyes and said, everyone is dead, so what if they know there is a soul? You die. Li Feng raised his head and glanced at Wade, and said, isn't there you? You don't have to resurrect Adam's body. After a while, Li Feng threw the experimental notes to Wade and said, look, there are so many ideas in it. Li Feng said so, expressing a kind of expression that I am very cowhide, a university student, and understand the content of the notes at a glance, but inside, I can't understand the notes. I'm not educated, I apologize. Ma Dan, how does the electric current resurrected body of Frankenstein electric eel operate? Which great god can help me explain? Now that's all right. If you go back to the Marvel world without applying for a university study for a few years, you can't create an immortal pet. Wade took the note curiously, sat on the bedside and turned it over, and Adam, who didn't know whether it was a big heart or was too exhausting to fight with Julier, fell asleep after a while and made snoring noises. Li Feng scratched his eyebrows. Now that the contents of the notebook are in his hands, he should also withdraw. Li Feng believed that his current small body could not participate in the battle between Adam, Stonewing Beast and the Devil. Li Feng gave a light cough and motioned Wade to turn his attention from the experimental notes to him. Unfortunately, he underestimated Wade's obsession with notebooks, and saw Wade said without raising his head, "Mr. Austin, what's the matter with you?" Quote, Li Feng, "It's nothing, just tell you. I have been out for a long time, and now I want to go back to the monastery and meet my companions." Wade looked up at Li Feng, waved his hand like a fly and said, "Okay, I'll talk to Adam." Li Feng thought for a while, and kindly reminded, "In this world, human life is a gift from God, and you are just an ordinary person, but you step into the realm of God and do it for yourself." After that, Li Feng opened the portal and disappeared in front of Wade. As for Wade, still interested in studying the resurrected corpse, or burning the experimental notes after reflection, it's not about Li Feng. He has reminded Wade, hasn't he? The portal opened directly to the Stonewing Beast Monastery. As soon as Li Feng crossed the portal, Ophir hurried to Li Feng's side, returned Thea Solomon's key to Li Feng, and said, "Mr. Austin, this is yours. Spell book, thank you for lending me to use Thea Solomon's key, so that my brothers and sisters can stay in the world and continue to fight." A slightly tired Li Feng slapped Heish, waved his hand and said, "No thanks, as for Thea Solomon's key, I said it was given to you at the beginning, so keep it for yourself." Ophir shook his head, stuffed Thea Solomon's key into Li Feng's hands, smiled and said, "The important thing about this book is the content. We have copied the content during the time you left the monastery, so this book originally has the first edition of Solomon's Key. With certain energy, we think it is better to return it to you. This is a good collection." Ophir stretched out his hand for Li Feng and himself, and said as he walked, "Some of the low-level spells I analyzed before have been checked by the Queen. Now, the Queen invites you to the living room and prepares to hand it to you." "Haha, I didn't trust me before, but now I'm so polite. I don't want to hand over the spell to me. Instead, I'm going to ask me where I left the monastery. You Stonewing Beasts like to bend, so just ask. I will not hide." Li Feng slandered while following Ophir's back to the meeting room. In the meeting room, Liam, who was originally sitting on the throne, took a magic scroll that Ophir parsed for inspection. Seeing Li Feng's arrival, he got up and smiled and said, "You lent Ophir the key of Solomon. I heard that the devil who invaded the monastery was wiped out." Leonore leaned slightly and said, "Thank you for your help. She was also a queen anyway." Li Feng could not stand Leonore's gift and would be beaten to death by Stonewing Beast. Li Feng turned sideways to avoid Leonore's leaning direction, waved his hand and said, "Nothing, I was in the monastery at the time, the devil I can't run into the monastery, so if Ophir uses Thea Solomon's key, you can understand that I am protecting myself." Leonore smiled and turned to look at Gideon, who was like a wooden man. Gideon nodded slightly. He picked up a silver-white hip flask inlaid with some crushed gems and walked to Li Feng, saying, "This is a gift that the Queen specially prepared for you to help the monastery defeat the devil." Leonore stretched out his hand for Li Feng to take the jug, and said, "This jug is just a simple prop. It can ensure that the liquid in the jug does not deteriorate for a long time." After taking the hip flask, Li Feng took a closer look at the magic pattern on the flask. He could only say that Li Feng had been a magician for too short and the amount of knowledge stored in his brain was too small. He could only vaguely see the content of the magic pattern. Everyone knows that holy water is due to the priest chanting the scriptures, which has the effect of exorcising evil and curing some simple diseases. Leonore looked at the flask in Li Feng's hand and said with a smile, "But it's just ordinary holy water. The function of holy water is stronger, but its production is too cumbersome, and the holy water in your flask is the top holy water produced by the monastery." After listening to Leonore's introduction, Li Feng's first reaction was to roll his eyes. "Maiden, ordinary holy water is just mortals chanting scriptures, but you are angels, stone-winged beasts. I know how overbearing the holy water made by you chanting scriptures is. Yes, it is estimated that apart from the devil prince of Nobilis, who is the remaining devil belching, this is also troublesome to make holy water. Otherwise, you have a lot of holy water. When facing the invasion of the devil, just aim the water gun at the devil. Nobilici couldn't bear to be soaked in holy water. If you are more flexible in your mind, research technology, and find a way to send a large amount of holy water to the sky, and then form holy water raindrops on the ground, that group of demons can really become sewer rats. But what do you mean by giving me holy water? The devil uses dark energy, but what about me? Don't you know that I also use dark energy and want to destroy me? Leonore seemed to see what Li Feng was thinking, and said with a smile, I think you have some misunderstandings about holy water. The main function of holy water in the monastery is to purify filth. The reason why it has huge amounts of effect on evil things such as the devil is because of the devil. The mind is twisted, Leonore faintly explained. The use of holy water has nothing to do with what kind of energy you use. Energy is just energy. It has no difference between good and evil. Just like dark energy is corrosive, is the power of faith safe? The power of faith is also dangerous. Otherwise, why don't those gods' sacrifices use them after collecting the beliefs, but put the beliefs in the hands of the gods, so that the gods will return to the sacrifices in the form of mana after they are transformed? Leonore pointed to the hip flask and said, these holy waters can purify your mind and body, and at the same time strengthen your resistance to dark energy corrosion, making your magician path more even. Li Feng is not sure whether Leonore's words are true. He feels that Leonore is more of a temptation to give himself holy water. As long as he uses the holy water to turn into fly ash, it means that he is an enemy, and he is safe after using it. It is the guest. After thinking for a while, Li Feng opened the wine pot and lightly touched a little holy water with his index finger on his right hand, perceiving his own changes. There seems to be no change. Li Feng glanced at Leonore, who was smiling, and put his right index finger into his mouth to continue to perceive the influence of the holy water on him. As soon as the index finger was put in his mouth, Li Feng felt that his mana had disappeared out of thin air, but the purity of his mana had increased a little. Li Feng doesn't care about the disappearance of mana, because mana can be restored through meditation, but the increase in mana's purity is a big surprise. If you want to have pure mana on weekdays, you have nothing to do except rely on meditation and water milling, but now you only have to. You can do it with a sip of holy water. There is also this good thing. Li Feng licked the corner of his mouth, and Li Feng was ready to pour the remaining holy water with his head up. Gideon watched Li Feng's movements and hurriedly stretched out his hand to stop and said, Mr. Austin, every time you drink the cap of the mineral water after regaining full mana, the effect will be better. We estimate that after you drink this pot of holy water, your mana will be better. The purity can be doubled. After listening to Gideon's explanation, Li Feng didn't know if holy water could strengthen the dark energy, but the purified mana was indeed real. Thinking that his mana tank was basically full, Li Feng raised the jug and took a sip carefully. For a long time, Li Feng, who closed his eyes to perceive the change in mana, muttered, a small bite consumes half of mana, but the purity has increased by 1 level, not bad, good thing. Lifting the hip flask, Li Feng leaned forward slightly towards Leonore, and said, thank you, this gift has helped me a lot. I feel ashamed. In fact, after Li Feng drank the holy water, Leonore had been carefully observing Li Feng's changes. Until Li Feng's appearance remained unchanged, Leonore secretly breathed a sigh of relief. This sudden attack caused the war to start at an instant, so the most important thing for us now is to prepare for the war, which leads to time constraints. We only analyze some low-level magic principles for you. When we finish this time, I will analyze the remaining spells for you. Li Feng took the scroll and said, thank you again for your help. At present, these low-level spells have been enough for me to learn for a long time. If nothing happens, I want to go back to my room and rest. Leonore turned to look at Ophir, and motioned Ophir to take Li Feng to the guest room to rest. When Li Feng's figure disappeared in the meeting room, Gideon looked at Leonore and said, don't you ask where he left the monastery. Leonore shook his head and said, since he drinks the holy water, not only is he not harmed, but benefits are obtained. It shows that Austin and the devil are not in the same group, nor are they evil people. Our priesthood is to destroy the devil. To protect humanity, what Austin wants to do has nothing to do with us. Li Feng returned to the lounge and couldn't wait to sit on the head of the bed and open the scroll. While checking the spells and recording the spells in the magic book, he pondered the principles of the spells. For a long time, Li Feng rubbed his eyebrows and muttered to himself. Said it is a low-level spell, but I think some spells are better than high-level spells, just like healing spells, although my mana attribute is not able to use all the spells with ability, but this half-disabled treatment can also make me an excellent surgeon. If I run a hospital and treat one patient as soon as I raise my hand, it is estimated that I can count the money and count the cramps. There are also physical recovery spells. As long as a little mana is consumed, I can instantly change from exhaustion to life. Those beautiful men who are housed will hire me to perform spells every time they do beneficial activities for the body and mind. After a long time, there was a knock on the door, which brought Li Feng back to reality. Li Feng wiped his saliva, got up and opened the door, only to see Mordu standing outside the door with a wine bottle, frowning. Li Feng stepped aside to clear the road, signaled Mordu to enter the room, and said, "What's the matter? You are not like the magician in my mind now." "Adam is back." Mordu took a sip and continued. He told Leonore that Nobilis wanted to use Frankenstein's notes to resurrect the corpses he had collected earlier and prepare thousands of evil spirits to descend Earth. Li Feng scratched his head. He knew the news a long time ago, but he didn't say it. "Is it related to your ruined appearance?" "Leonore has issued a war order after knowing the incident." "It's okay. I understand. I even want to join the battle, but..." Mordu rolled his eyes and pointed to his ear, gritted his teeth and whispered angrily. "After Adam left, I heard Lila order Gideon to follow Adam. As long as he finds Frank Stan's notebook, Gideon will kill Adam to prevent the method of resurrecting the body from falling into the hands of Nobilis." "Li Feng, what are you struggling with? The Mordor magician I know will only make the same decision, right? After all, the existence of Adam violates the laws of nature." Mordu was stunned, poured the wine in his mouth, and said, "But you also said that God allows Adam to exist, and I don't see any evil in Adam. Our duty is to protect. We have no right to deprive others of their existence. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more."